I didn't sell out, son. I bought in. Keep that in mind.
Welcome to the Independent Characters, episode 250. This is Carl.
This is Josh.
And this is Campbell.
Perfect. Great episode. We're going to be talking about the 2024 year in review. We're recording this January 3rd, so fairly close to the end of the year. But before I even get started, this show has been sponsored by Nick Mutton and Dan Waite from our Discord. Thank you so much for your support. Super appreciated.
Yeah.
You're helping us keep the lights on. And
can't overstate that enough.
And if you're going to order a t-shirt because they're starting to sell. But I'm still a little bit in the hole here. So on the t-shirts I bought. That being said, if you are going to Adepticon and you do not want to pay shipping, I'm going to add a check mark to the order form that you're going to be at Adepticon. Just check that mark and we will bring your shirt to you at Adepticon. This includes people who are overseas that we can't necessarily ship to because of costs, or in Canada or what have you. If you are coming to Adepticon or have friends that are coming and you want a shirt, you can have them pick it up for you if you just check that box when you place order.
Similarly, if you want to pick up shirts for friends that ordered it but aren't going to Adepticon, but you are, like, we can help them out there. And also War on the Shore, on the off chance anybody is going to War on the Shore and you want some icy shirts, we can get them to Hawaii very quickly.
You got about a week for that, though.
Yeah, but that's a short timeline.
Let us know soon. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be fun. Also, as I mentioned, this is our 250th anniversary.
Woo!
Like, I don't make a big deal out of it in the show. And I mean, there are shows that came out when we came out, didn't take breaks like I took breaks, have exceeded that number by a long shot. But 250 is still a big milestone, especially when episodes are 2 to 3 hours long each episode.
If you look at hours and quality of content.
And quality and quantity.
Quality and quantity.
So at least that's
well
what I
done.
see it.
Yeah, it's worth celebrating. It's a milestone.
That's 249 more episodes than most podcasts get around to doing.
This is true.
Yeah, you're in like the top 1% there.
All these it used to crack me up when podcasts would start up and they'd be like, "Hey, we'll exchange bumpers on the show." I'm like, how about you make it to episode 10, then we'll talk and we'll see where you stand at that point. And most of them didn't come back. A few came back.
Where are they now?
Yeah, a few came back.
This is my show, the Flash and the Pan cast.
It's hard. It's hard to maintain.
It really is.
Yeah. So, and to maintain the quality of it. So
yeah,
but we don't
getting anyone who's played any tabletop game, Dungeons and Dragons notwithstanding, will know how difficult it is to get adults to come together at the same time to do anything.
Yep.
So, Mazel tov.
Yeah. Hey, so let's talk a little bit about the show concept, because in the past years, what we've done is we've kind of done a retrospective of like everything that was released in the previous year or earlier in the year, as we would typically record them towards the end of the year. But this episode, Campbell got us thinking about that might not be the best approach. That tends to be a long episode and kind of just listy, and we kind of give some thoughts here and there. But we kind of changed the way we're going to do it this go around. We're going to talk about some of our favorite things this year. We're going to talk about some of our favorite games. We're going to talk about favorite releases, models, blah, blah, blah. That's not to say we won't mention a few things that have been brought up, but we're not going to go through an extensive list. Even though I have that extensive list at the bottom of the show notes, because what I do at the beginning of the year is basically don't throw away any email from Gmail or from Games Workshop, and I keep it in my Gmail, and then I'll, toss it all into the.
Here's everything that came out.
Here's everything that came out. We're not going to do that this year, but I think I like this format better, Campbell. I think it was a great suggestion on your part. So
I think it's more personal. You're getting a more authorial sort of, more authorial sort of voice here, but also. Yeah, back when you started doing these things, it was like, oh, in May they released Salamander's transfer sheet.
Yeah.
Next,
and then in September, it was like, we got a codex.
It was like, guys, you're not going to believe this. White Dwarf 248 came out this month, and hold on, next month 249. Incredible.
Wait for it.
But yeah, that fire hose has been blasting since 2017.
This month, 8 codexes came out.
Yeah, exactly. It has shown no sign of ceasing water pressure or anything of the sort.
So let's go into elite choice, and let's go ahead and I'll start, and then we'll wrap it up with Shell's Kiss. But I chose Andrew, who on our Discord server is Andrew. His actual Instagram is I'll add the link to the show notes, but it's under Instagram.com/CWA, like WOG.
That's SEAC.
3 A's and WA.
Yeah. He goes by Fugazid, is his handle on Discord. I took a look through his Instagram after seeing this stuff in Discord, and man, this guy's talented, like super talented. And I'm just about to paint Morven Vol, and so I've chosen his Morven Vol that he posted on our Discord server. It's just this really interesting technique where he does like a lot of non-metallic metal across the model.
All the golds there of the kind of the carapace armor.
But it's focused. Like he has almost like a spotlight focus on where he wants you to look. And as I looked at it, I was like, oh, well, that seems easier because you're not having to paint the whole model. I mean, you are painting the whole model, but you're not focusing so much detail on the whole model. But the more I looked at it, the more I'm like, this is a lot harder than it looks. Like this is a lot harder than it looks. And it requires a very artistic eye. But man, this model looks fantastic.
Non-metallic metal done right, like
in general,
really does want to force a particular perspective that way, but it's also really natural to how true metal and reflecting. Like as a photographer, let me tell you, that's how light actually works with metal and reflections. For me, this one especially brings it to life because it's like Morven Vol. Morven Vol is stepping into a spotlight. It's like the clouds have parted. This like the God beam is coming down and hitting this very like narrow focus like on her face and across the armor there, and it's just kind of got that like act of faith empowerment with that lighting choice coming into. It's like really nicely done.
It's a really good observation.
I also love his photography because against the black backdrop and the really stark stark lighting there, which he's gotten a bunch of other stuff looking at his Instagram right now.
Yeah,
it really echoes like chiaroscuro lighting and like Caravaggio sort of painting. It was so freaking cool and is so like it's so dramatic.
Yeah.
Like this picture looks like a painting.
What is Caravaggio painting? I don't know what that is.
All right. So Caravaggio was I think Renaissance painter who painted these like really high contrast, like bright light, black shadow sort of paintings that are very moody, very dark, very like not always creepy subject matter. Like I think he did like
it's probably religious based, so it probably does have a certain creepiness to it. Where, yeah.
But like chiaroscuro lighting was something that he was really well known for, which is where you have this very strong contrast with very uneven lighting, where it's like a spotlight sort of thing. Again, before you had spotlights per se. Yeah. But one more thing I just want to say is the cloth on Morven Vol's like skirt.
Shell pulled this out.
Soft.
Yeah.
It looks real. Like it looks like crushed velvet.
It does look like velvet. Yeah.
Real. And I don't mean this in a weird way, Andrew. I want to pet your model.
Shell, that was actually the first thing when I showed, she goes, which one did you pick? And I showed her and she's like, oh my God, the cloth on that looks incredible. Like I can't call her a non-painter now because she's doing a lot of painting, but you know, as somebody without the experienced eye, like she caught onto that real fast. But your God ray thing is a really interesting thing. As I'm looking at it again, I'm like, oh yeah, it looks like, you know, maybe the clouds have parted or light is coming through a window now and hitting that. The
act of faith about to empower her.
It's freaking incredible.
It's the God beam coming through.
So I saw this and I was like,
that's beautiful.
That's my elite choice.
Yep, that's art right there.
Yep.
What about you, Josh? What'd you pick?
Yep. So I went with Nick Staffa's Cargo 8 Ridge Hauler. Yeah. And this one, it's a really cool model. They're super busted in the game, but really, really fun thematically. But the weathering and the decals, especially for this, it's a really nice kind of weathered yellow orange. And then you've got the all the weathering on there, all the decals just really nicely detailed. And then the weathering of the decals, especially really appreciated. Got the whole crew in there. Got I think with three or four guys, goons in the cockpit there, including gunners. Really appreciated not only the color scheme, all the lighting effect. Kind of, it's a very subtle OSL lighting effect, but it truly looks as if it was lit, especially on the cargo containers themselves. And then some nice weathering, some nice mud effects kind of going on the tires there. It's just a beautiful attention to detail. Again, just a really, really nice execution of this wonderful, characterful model.
I took a look at the article you wrote on weathering on Goonhammer a while back, Campbell, after you posted a link to it in your, either on our Discord or the 40K Badcast Discord. Mm-hmm. And I went reading through that, and some of it I knew because you may have heard recently I took a weathering masterclass with Justin from Secret Weapon Manager. And some of that was the same technique, like the spray paint, the hairspray, et cetera. But it's a really great article you wrote, by the way. I'm going to include a link to that in our show notes too. But looking at this, I just really appreciate the weathering he's done on this vehicle.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm pretty good at weathering. I've done plenty of it. This is kind of a little more than I usually go for. And I mean that like, this is excellently done.
Yeah.
This looks to me, it kind of reminds me of like the miniature work in an old sci-fi movie. And a lot of it is just the design of the rig color.
See it in Aliens.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd say see it in Aliens.
That same yellow especially.
Yeah, or on Tatooine or whatever. Like, it looks great. I love this thing. And I love that they've got the full train.
Yeah.
The third picture. So the other thing I'll mention real quick is we will gather all these pictures and I'll make a single post for them like I did last show on our Facebook group. A lot of people appreciated that, I think, because a lot of times we would just tag it and people would have to search it out, but we'll make them all available so you can take a look at what we're talking about. Fantastic stuff. What'd you pick, Campbell? What'd you pick, Campbell?
I went off script here. I love it. Captain Hawkeye's Pokemon cards. So these were a Christmas gift, which first off, love that. Love seeing people giving like art they make as gifts. It's personal, it's fun, it's cool. It really shows a lot more, than just buying someone something nice. But it's doing the evolution of this Pokemon, who I'm actually not even familiar with, named Aaron Laren, and I assume the last one is Darren. And what they've done is they've gotten like some typical Pokemon cards for these characters, cut out the artwork, and attach that to the front of like these little 3D printed boxes. Yeah. And inside the box is like a little diorama of
little shadow boxes.
And they're like busting out of them when like the more they evolve, which is super freaking cool.
It's super cool.
It's like at first I was like, the first night I literally thought was just like 3D render artwork or something like that. And I was like, oh, how's it coming out like that? And then I saw the second picture where it's got
they show the different angles. Yeah.
Yeah. And they also did one of Vaporeon where they did like a resin pour. So it looks kind of like it's underwater, which is so freaking cool.
Oh, and intentional bubbles in that too. So adds, adding to that underwater effect. That's really neat. That is where did you see these, Campbell?
These are on the IC's Discord.
Oh, I missed that.
I missed it too.
Nice.
These are brilliant. I'm not even into Pokemon. Like I'm not at all into Pokemon. I used to play a little Pokemon Go. I'm not into Pokemon, but like I can appreciate the artistry and the cleverness of this. Like it's very, very cool. Mm-hmm. And if somebody was into Pokemon and you gave them this as a gift, I mean, dude, they beat over the moon. These are incredible.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
These are incredible.
So I just thought these were a really cool. I also love anything that uses the skill sets we developed through these hobbies. Used for something that isn't just Warhammer.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, which is like, obviously, I love Warhammer. I'm here because of it, but this is a very cool take on those skills.
Yeah, they look awesome.
When 40K, hobby techniques lend to practical projects, like my wife is asking me to oil wash a mirror for our guest bathroom, our hall bathroom sink, because she wants it to look a little bit more antique. And I was like, oh yeah, I can totally oil wash that. Like, do you want to? It's gold. Like, do we want to add a little purple in that to like get some like in the recesses, or like just go kind of a black brown?
I don't have that much Drukari Violet to wash it.
Oil wash goes a long way.
All right. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I've repaired like broken knobs on like our stove. I've fixed my glasses like
all the time
using green stuff and pinning and stuff like that.
Oh, that's funny.
Real world skills.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's how 40K has helped transform our lives.
That's right.
All right. I want to talk about Shell's Kiss real quick. Shell's Kiss is for Cameron Swarbrick. And this Warhammer Old World unit that he painted, or individual hero unit that he painted on a horse. It's kind of he said it's a newer Viking style Chaos Raider. It's kind of a kit conversion from Age of Sigmar. I met Cameron when I was down in Australia.
That's right,
in
yeah.
Perth, and Cameron's super nice and just a great guy. And Shell, like, she picked this out just visually, and then she reached out to Cameron because I said, I don't know what model that is. Can you ask him? And so she asked him, and this is where he said, you know, I'm really glad to be a part of this Hobby Progress Challenge. I've gotten so many minis painted already because of it. And that's great. Like, cool. I'm not just patting myself on the back. What he said here is, tomorrow I'll be going to the funeral of the friend who first got me into Warhammer. But when I come home, I'll have something to focus on to keep my hands busy with. This one's for you, Ben. And this was, you know, the thing he was working on. And so I just found that, you know, Shell found that added layer to it. And I think it speaks to us who we've lost our friend Doug. You know, it was like, oh, you know, we can appreciate the value of those relationships, but also this is just beautifully painted. Like Shell picked it out before knowing any of that. So I love the fur on the shoulder. He did a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is great to, you know, the memory of those we lose lives on through, and it's not just the model itself, but it's all the good times we've had with them and shared with them over the years. So yeah.
Every model's got a story.
Yeah.
That's right. So great work, Cameron.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Really spoke to Shell.
Love the heads on it too.
I know.
I love the war paint. No, nice subtle conversion of that Dark Oath model for Old World. Basing's nice too.
Yeah, very good. All right. Well, I think we should just keep going. Let's not even take a break. Let's just launch right into, you know, the workbench, hobby progress stuff we're doing there. Mine's going to be fairly short. I finished basing finally this Chaos Knight that I had painted up a while back. Finally, I also decided to lock his sword arm or claw arm into one spot, like by gluing it, because originally it was flexible,
floppy arm,
but it's just floppy all the time. And I was like, I've had enough of this. I'm going to lock it into this position. So I did that. I finally got that guy ready.
That night looks really good. Yeah, it turned out great.
It was,
now that it's based, really, it's the rug that tied the room together.
I had used some techniques I had learned from Kat and Caleb's class on it. And the next one I do, because eventually I want to be able to field a Chaos Knight army, will probably be along the same lines.
Yeah,
as this
nice.
one. So
nice.
But man, those models are pricey.
Yeah, but you get a lot of points out of them.
You don't need a lot.
Yeah,
but they're like $200.
How many
a pop,
armigers do you have?
2.
I mean, you got half a Knight army.
Yeah.
You've already got half one.
Okay. Well, let's just say it's not going to happen. I got to sell a lot more t-shirts.
And the next army, you're going to weather the heck out of. So.
Well, but this one's already started and not weathered. So I got to go back and weather.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll have to repaint.
You have time. You still got it.
Okay. And then did some work on the Night Lords for Shell, getting some of her stuff prepped up. I don't remember if I had mentioned that I did base coats and lightning on her Vindicator, but that's done and she's done the rest of that. And then I did all the base coats on 12 infantry models. These are from the
kill team.
Yeah, from the kill team.
That's such a
Nemesis
cool
Claw kill team.
That's a really cool box.
Yeah, it's a really cool. Like won the Games Workshop.
And that was model of the year was that box. Yeah.
I will tell you, the instructions are wrong in it in the box. They may look cool, but like there's a few issues there, and it's actually really base kind of Chaos Space Marine set with additional sprues. It's not like a but it all works. It all works very, very well together. So I got all the base coats done on those. I need to do a little bit of lightning for her on those. And then, she was like, well, what can I use these as in my army? I'm like, well, you could just use them as Chaos Space Marine. And then I realized, oh, wait, this is actual unit you can take in a Chaos Space Marine army.
Its own bespoke unit.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's kind of interesting. I don't know if they're any good or not, but... and then not 40k, but we've been playing a ton of Cthulhu Death May Die, which is a Kickstarter I backed a long time ago, and a new set came in, and
fantastic.
So I painted up the little 6-inch tall Cthulhu, 8-inch tall, whatever he is, and his Star Spawn.
Nice.
Cool.
Just slap chop that real fast. So I got to do the rest of that. I got to paint 40k miniatures. There's a lot of board games I'm playing right now that I'm like, I could paint this up. I'm like, what I really should do is paint up my 40k stuff.
Well, the thing is with those board game minis, like that is a great time to do a palette cleanser like that.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, I assume these are kind of like your typical board game plastic where they're not like hyper detailed or red or whatever, but they're great for cleansing the palette, trying new techniques, or just honestly, it feels good to just take something from bare plastic to painted, whatever that standard is. irrespective of how long that takes.
It's a
And
good
if
point.
it takes 20 minutes to have a painted model, tight.
Yeah. I think I did both of these in like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they are, the models in Death May Die are actually pretty damn well done. So it's a great game. If you haven't played it, it's worth playing. Josh, what have you been working on?
Yep. So it'll be the last time I say this for a while, but I was painting some Sharkadons. So I did finish the Tech Marine that I'd built. This was my Hobby Progress entry for December. So I was able to finish the Tech Marine there. And then while I was at it and had all the colors out, I also finished painting the Assault Terminators. Which was the final two kind of units I needed to round out the 2K list for 2,000 points for Sharkadons for War on the Shore and just going forward. I do have a handful of units left for the Sharks that I will paint eventually, but it's like 3 that won't get used nearly as often. So I actually have a bunch more that are not inside that 2K list that are Primaris and painted. So I have options for different sizes of games, but very happy to have that 2K list, kind of feeling pretty dialed, happy where it is. I will go back and add a little bit of weathering to the vehicles and some more blood effects to the assault units in there. But overall, very, very happy with where the Sharks are sitting right now, and happy with how that army's playing too so far. And then I went on a building spree. We had some work going on in the house, so I was stuck in the office in between video editing projects. So I just didn't have time to paint, couldn't paint, had to babysit the dog while we had people working on the house. But I assembled the Farseer Skyrunner for my Eldar. Then I assembled a Falcon Grav Tank, complete with magnetization of turrets and base. Assembled the Night Spinner, similar with magnetization of...
Say it again.
Magnetization. Wow. Of the turret and base. Assembled the Avatar of Cain, assembled the Spirit Seer, assembled the 5 Wraith Guard, and assembly in progress on the Wraith Knight. Have that all built up except for the arms. I'm trying to figure out how I want to magnetize that just to make the option swappable, especially with a new book around the corner. Who knows what they're going to do profile-wise for that. So I don't know what weapon set I want to build out, knowing it's probably going to be...
Who knows?
It's probably going to be pretty different from what it was, because right now it's a really interesting loadout, and obviously the Wraith Knight's the one unit that broke the game in the beginning of 10th edition and changed how certain rules work, not only how the unit worked.
That's how you know it's broken, when they change the basic.
They
rule
actually
of the
changed
game.
core rules because of this unit, not because of
not fixing the unit.
Yeah.
Just
They don't just make it more expensive. They change the game.
Yeah. It's the classic GW thing where if something's broken, they fix it twice. So and they definitely did in this case. I think they fixed it 3 times. So.
Measure twice, cut once.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to mention these Terminators you painted. These are the old Assault Terminators. They are not new Primaris size Terminators, because they don't have those in Assault.
They do not exist yet. Yeah, new Primaris Assault Terminators do not exist. So one thing I am tempted to do, because I'm more likely to run these Terminators than I am with the Primaris shooty Terminators that I have, is actually take the Assault arms and stick them onto the
I wonder how that looks.
shooty Terminators that I have.
It'd probably look really good.
I think it'll work.
I think it'll work.
But I'll probably do a little Google image searching to see if anybody's done it before for reference.
Yeah.
But
If
I think
you've
it'll
done
work.
I
that,
bet people have.
if you've done that and you're listening, please post a picture of what it looks like, because we're really curious.
Yeah, this assault unit's going to get it's an assault army, so they're way more likely to hit the table compared to the shooty versions.
Yeah.
I'm very likely to do that. The only thing is, I'm not sure if the other way works. If the new Terminator arms on the old assault Terminator bodies are going to look any different. I'm not sure if the shoulder pads are oversized or something like that. If it looks funny, but
I bet it looks fine.
Anyways, yeah. So, got the Sharks done,
They look
and
great, man.
did a ton of building in preparation for the Eldar release coming up, and I'll be painting my butt off on those as we lead up to Adepticon and also our big game event, because that's all Eldar.
Yes, it is.
Your army does look great altogether. Like, I think I'm looking forward to seeing those hit the table proper.
Nice.
Oh, I've seen it. We'll talk about it in a little bit.
I definitely, especially on the Vindicator, like that shield. I really need to add more weathering to the shield on there, and a little bit on the tanks. But pretty happy with it is, and I'll just go back and do some final touches now that it's at least tabletop ready.
All right, Campbell, let's talk about your weathered guys.
Yeah, about to say, speaking of weathering, going back a few steps, I finished the Sentinel that I think I mentioned building and magnetizing last episode. And man, this thing, this is a lot of work for like a 65-point model charitably. It's the sort of thing where when I was done, I was like, oh, I'm going to put together a list of all my stuff. And oh, it's not even 500 points.
Yeah, that's the worst. It's so demotivating.
Hard. But yeah, this model was honestly, it was really relaxing to paint because I could read it. It's got a pretty open pose and just a lot of very sharply defined big edges that were fun and easy to highlight and slap some transfers on. And I've been having a ton of fun weathering transfers. I've already been sponging them and like doing chips over them, but going like paint the area white, stick the transfer on, and then use a little bit of white paint to like fray the edges of the transfer or scratches over it.
It's a great touch.
It looks so realistic. It's so easy to do, frankly, as long as you just have a fine brush. And I've really enjoyed doing it. And yeah, this model, I built it so the armored canopy comes off like a hat.
Does the top pop off?
It does. It's not even magnetized. It's just
that's so good. That's really cool.
Yeah, it just the canopy has these little indentations for the roll cage, so it just sits right on top of that. And because it's primed, it's like got a little bit of extra volume, so it fits a little more snug.
Yep.
Maybe someday I'll start to rub off the silver, in which case I'll just touch it up.
Are armored and unarmored sentinels two separate things still, or is it just one? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So you got options.
Exactly.
You can make it worth even less points.
I can make it 55 points. Yeah, I can self-own that much harder.
Nice.
But the little hunter killer missile also pops off because the hole it fits into is just the right size for like a 3mm magnet. Nice. So I can just pop that off and I guess stick it to the side of my water bottle after firing it so I don't lose it. But yeah, this thing was really fun to work on. And I painted the driver and the canopy and like all the bits separately. Like my whole desk was covered with bases with little bits stuck to them. And it's very gratifying to put them all together at the end.
It looks amazing.
Yeah, that looks incredible.
I love your paint scheme for this stuff. It's just awesome.
Thank you. And I've been having a lot of fun also doing the streaking with the rust line going down. Which is just
all the bolts.
Yeah, it is kind of tedious, but again, it is frankly really relaxing. It
adds so much to the model.
It's not hard to do. And you can even clean it up with a base color afterwards too. 90% of why my stuff looks good is I cleaned it up afterwards.
So if you've overdone it, you just go in, finally touch it up with the base color and kind of bring it back down. That's cool.
And since it's kind of a watery paint, I'm using like really watered down Mornfang brown, running that for the rust streaks. I can just kind of cut back in with the grays here.
It looks fantastic, Campbell.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So after that, I started working on my Rogel Dorn. And that kit that's an involved kit to build.
That's a big tank.
I'll be honest, I wish I left the side skirts off and painted the treads separately. Instead, I built the whole thing and had to go back, primed it white, had to go back over with black over and over again to get the treads and all that. So there's one picture of that down here where it's in progress, where I actually did the scratching thing again on the front stripes. Because if you'll see most of the time on like a GW Gleam and Rust, it's got these red, white, red stripes, which is actually like a British World War I identification thing they did to identify British tanks instead of captured British tanks. And that's just a thing that carried over into modern 40k imagery. So I've been doing that too. But I did get to paint the crew for this thing, and the crew were so much fun. Just painting a couple little guys who are going to be on that thing every single game felt really nice, because painting a guardsman, putting all that time and effort into painting just one little guy and finding out he's 5 points, it kind of sucks because he's going to get swept off the table right away. But these regular working folks will get to hang out in this big safe tank for at least a turn and a half.
That tank commander looks awesome.
Yeah,
he looks awesome. He's got so much character in his face. It's so good.
Yeah, I think that head's from the platoon command squad. He does look kind of like my dad. But, so he's got the little gray mustache. But yeah, the tank commander on the Cadian upgrade sprue, he can be built to be like holding the sword out, which is how he's always shown. But there's the option to have him have his hand behind his back, which just looks so haughty.
It's dignified.
Yeah, exactly. So I gave him that like very dignified, chest out sort of pose.
Love it.
Yeah. So I'm having fun
inspires confidence.
Exactly. Or at least exudes it.
It exudes, yeah.
So right now I'm in the process of, there's a work in progress picture here of the Dorn itself. Since taking this, I've gone over and done edge highlights of all the white, which did take like a day and a half.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm working through it.
It's a big tank.
It's a big tank. It really is. It's a healthy size tank.
They're beasts, dude. They are beasts on the table too. Every time I see one of those come around the corner when I'm playing, I'm like, oh crap. Here it comes. Oh,
so many wounds.
Yep.
So,
all right.
Looking forward to fielding that.
Dude, this whole army is going to look so sick when you're done.
When I'm done in like 2027.
Exactly. Exactly. We'll talk
65
about that.
points at a time. Hey, the tank's got to be a couple hundred.
Yeah.
I think the tank's
225.
like 220, 280 if it's tank commander. And of course that Krieg box is coming real soon, and that's just going to balloon this project all the more.
Nice. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about games played. I haven't played a lot of 40k lately. I did play one game with Josh just before recording this, so we'll talk about that. But I have been playing like just a ton of board games lately. In particular, to Cthulhu Death May Die, which I mentioned earlier. We had our buddy Jason Mullins, who you may remember from the Overlords a long time ago, came and visited with his wife, and we played the Fight the Giant Cthulhu.
Yeah, you did the big scenario.
Yeah, it took two attempts, but we won it on the second one. And then my wife and I have been playing a lot of this game Euthea, which is like a adventure game where you're traveling around the board. And it was funny, Josh, because you said, "Oh, it looks like a." I wish my wife would play these.
It looks like a campaign co-op game.
It is not as competitive each scenario.
Yeah, one-shot competitive is not what it looks like at all. But it sounds fun.
It's super cool. It has a lot of the features I like. Like I keep telling people, it looks like a game I would have designed when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
In the sense that like I like those games where you like just explore and you add more hexes as you're exploring out areas, and then but it also has like a ton of rules, and it's like they felt like. It's not like you could look at it and go, oh, well, here's the core rules. Okay. And then everything plays off that. Yeah, there are some core rules, but then it's like, but this tile is different than this tile and it's different than this tile. And so you wind up kind of in this situation where it's like, we have 1,000 tokens in the game and you have like, little card chits you get and cards in the game and dice. And
is it a fantasy flight game?
No.
I swear those designers are in commission by how many tokens and like special dice they can include in a game.
This beats them out. Beats them out. But it's been a lot of fun.
It's not clunky though. It's fun and
no. Once it's taken Shell and I a bit, and then of course every scenario is very different too. So there'll be different rules that come into play. But anyway, interesting board game. I bought it like a year ago off a Kickstarter. I went in deep on it, and I was like, finally, like, let me convince her to play this. And so we were like, oh yeah, and so. It takes a ton of space, so we have a table set up that we could just leave it on and play. So anyway, fun. But then, Josh and I guess we just roll into this. Yeah. You and I just played a game.
Yeah,
Campbell, I played the new Tzeentch Grotmist host.
How'd you like it?
Super fun.
It is a lot of fun to play and play against.
The what's it called? The
flux die mechanic.
Yeah,
I think it is.
Yeah, the flux chit mechanic or whatever.
Flux capacitor.
I used So for those who don't know, I'm trying to remember the name of the host. It's right over behind you. It's on that paper over there. It's a Tzeentch demon specific list, and the scintillating host or something like that. Scintillating Legion. Sit back down. And one of the mechanics in it is that you start with 3 tokens, ideally, called these flux tokens. And what happens is you can use them for various rerolls, but also you can use them to enhance some of the stratagems that you have. So you can take one stratagem that may, say, increase the power of your shooting attack by 1, and you spend that stratagem point, but also you spend one of these flux tokens, and it now increases it to 3 extra strength and another AP. But when you spend one of these flux tokens, you then give it to your opponent, and they can then use it for a narrower set of options.
A limited command reroll.
Yeah, it's basically a limited command reroll that can also, like, you can use that and your command reroll. Now, you can't stack rerolls, but you can effectively use it on multiple things. And of course, so there's only 3 and they kind of bounce back and forth, but in the event that it's the end of the Tzeentch player's command phase, and your opponent still has one of these tokens, you get to add another token to your stack. And they went back and forth a lot.
Yeah,
in our game.
We probably handed back and forth 20 tokens through the course of the game.
Over the course of the game. Yeah.
It was fun.
And that was by the end of round 3.
Yeah.
Playing Pong with tokens.
It was fun. It added, and I knew, like, in reading and I know you covered this for Goonhammer, Campbell, but in reading the list, I was like, I don't know if this is powerful, but it sure looks fun. I think I need more practice with it to see how it's powerful. I think the problem with my list, which contained a lot of what I have for Tzeentch, and So it's probably not like the most optimized list, but also Zeech kind of suffers in terms of limitation of types of units. So I had like 2 squads of flamers. I had a 6-man squad of screamers, a 3-man squad of screamers, because I only own 9 screamers. 4 squads of 10 pink horrors, Karos Fate Weaver, a Lord of Change,
And Demon Prince.
a Demon Prince, and the
Exalted Chariot, or
the Flaming Chariot, or whatever it's called. Which is the first time I'd used that vehicle as well. I think that was it.
Yeah.
I think that was it. So I lacked, unfortunately, like a lot of tank destroying stuff, especially when I lost one of the Lord of Changes right off the bat, because it's hard to get them behind cover. And so we didn't have a lot of ruins on the table. And so, I lost one of those. I mean, it took you your whole army to shoot at it, but it really neutered my army by doing so.
And I'll say the flux tokens are really cool because instead of 1 command reroll, like if you are relying on those 4 invuln saves, but you fail 4 from a volley of las cannons,
here's 4 tokens.
You can spend those tokens. So it makes your invuln saves very powerful as long as you roll decently.
Doesn't help when you keep rolling ones and twos.
There's that, but
so the first part of the game, my rolls were typical,
Not great.
typical atrocious. Now they did build some momentum by the mid part of the game. You played your Sharkadons, which we just saw.
Yep. So this is actually the first showing of the proper 2,000 point Sharkadons.
Twin Land Raider.
Yeah. 2 Land Raiders. Yeah. Love it. Two assault units in there.
Vindicator.
2 units of scouts, Ballistus Dreadnought, Thunderstrike, and some intercessors for.
I'm hitting on 2s and wounding on 2s. Shut up.
There was a.
I want to see you play Campbell's Black Templar.
I'm pretty sure Templar would win that one, but it would be a fun. It would be a fun fight.
I've played games with 5 Land Raiders on the table before that were not 30k, and they're wonderful. Big fan.
Yeah,
nice. Yeah,
I love it.
I mean, it would be a super fun game either way. Maybe at Adepticon.
Yeah,
maybe.
So I mean, you kind of rolled into the center of the table. I kind of grabbed some early points, but I only got 4 right off the first round, and then you ended up, it was something like 21-4 at some after the first round or something, or by the time it hit my turn.
That was bottom, or at the end of my turn too. I was first turn.
So, yeah.
But then you caught back up,
and then all of a sudden, I caught back up, took the lead, but then you took it back, and I lost my momentum. I gave everything I had in that one go, and then I was just out of. There was nothing else.
You ended up killing all my assault stuff though, and the counter shooting after I did my thing. I killed a bunch of stuff, and you were able to capitalize on them not being.
Demon Prince did some work.
He did some work.
Yeah, and in addition to that, actually, it was a good. Like there were times where I threw screamers at a Land Raider because I was like, I want to see what these things are capable of doing. Oh, it turns out pretty good.
Yeah.
Turns out, especially with the flux tokens.
Yeah.
Here, I'm going to take
4+.
And you're like, well, now I'm going to use those 4 for my reroll of the save. And it's like,
I did roll terrible on those saves also, but still.
But I mean, I took a Land Raider down to, with 4 of them, I took a Land Raider down to 2 wounds.
Yeah.
And then we called the game at that point, but because it was heavily in Josh's favor at that point. But I mean, the score wasn't belaying it, but his momentum was such that there was nothing I could do at that point. I could just annoy you with this one flamer that wouldn't die while I was in close combat with the Land Raider Redeemer.
Would have been fine.
That was about it. Yes, I will use this flux token to re-roll that wound roll on that flamer with 1 wound remaining, just to be a pain in your ass.
The mission was I don't remember the name of it, but it was whoever kills more is
on objectives.
Objectives and killing. Yeah.
It was fun. It was super fun.
Super fun game. Yeah.
So that was us. Did you play any other games?
I did not. I am going to play another 2,000 point game against Brian and his World Eaters. Full 2,000. He's bringing Angron, and he is very excited to have Angron come back to life so he can send you a message in the middle of that game that says, as per my last email.
Where are you guys playing?
At my house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So we'll play that Sunday, and that'll be this is just two, you and Brian are always really fun opponents to play against. And then, I wanted to get a couple games under my belt with the list before going to War on the Shore. Cause
it'll be fun.
5 games. So
I'm only playing 4. I'm showing up late. I'm there for the beach.
That's not a bad way to go.
I'm out of there.
Yeah.
That's safe. You're
Gaming's like, all right.
I think you can be forgiven for maybe missing a game.
Yeah.
Hang out in Hawaii.
I'm just showing up a little late.
You're missing the first game.
What about you, Campbell? What have you been up to?
I got one game in, and I wanted to try basically all the new stuff. So I played against my buddy Michael and his Iron Warriors. He was running Veterans of the Long War, and I was running the new Wrathful Procession. And I wanted to do something different because I've run essentially the same dual Land Raider, or in some cases triple Land Raider list for most of 10th edition, some variations thereof. And I wanted to try out, like, I've painted Chaplain Grimaldus. I want to see what he's like. I want to see what Outriders are like now that they're damage 2. I want to see what Intercessors are like now that they can pump out 20 bolt rifle shots from 5 guys. That one turns out pretty cool.
Yeah. Pretty good.
It's one of the reasons I want to take a squad of 10 my Ultramarines with Lieutenant.
Dude, his Iron Warriors look good.
His Iron Warriors look good. He's a good painter, and he's a great converter.
Wow.
Because every model in this army, save for maybe some of the vehicles, is converted pretty extensively with a mix of heresy bits, Marine bits across the entire, like every Marine range. Like the Master of Possession you're looking at there is the Templar Marshal model with Master of Possession kit bashed in there,
and the Master of Possession head on it. I was just that's the one thing that drew my attention. I was like, oh, that's a clever idea. Maybe I've got a couple of those sitting around. Maybe I should use that helmet on something else. Like, it's cool.
Yeah, it's a very cool mix of, like, again, like there's like a metal Chaos backpack, like Chaos Lord backpack, and the dude in the far left there.
I'm going to include this picture in our elite choice. Yeah,
please do. His army's sick as hell. And I always love seeing it. And yeah, I want to try Wrathful Procession, which is the new Templar detachment. Its whole thing is that at the start of every turn, you get to pick +2 move and +1 advance, +1 strength, or a 5-up invuln from shooting. And that's a pretty cool core rule. The problem is the enhancements are tied to Templar specific models. So just Castellans and Marshals, which are worse, slightly cheaper lieutenants and captains. And the stratagems kind of bite too. So I want to see what it could do, though.
This is your Grotmus detachment?
Yeah, this is the new Grotmus detachment. Okay. I was pretty warm on it when I did the video, and I'm less warm on it now. So first off, he's also a very good player, and I even told him, like, hey, you don't got to try Creations of Bile because we know how that game will go, but I still want you to, bring, like, let's play a real game here. And yeah, he's very good with his list. So right off the bat, he had first turn. So I'm like, sweet, he's got to come at me. The problem is his dudes can just hang out in rhinos and just launch out of him because he's got all these chosen with advance and charge, and they just come advancing and charging out of stationary rhinos that are hidden. I couldn't crack any of them on turn 1 because the Repulsor Executioner, despite my best efforts, that thing it's not good. It's not good. It's on paper, it looks so good. But you're like, oh man, a strength 16 AP4 damage D6 +6 gun or whatever, but it has to hit and then it has to wound. And those are two things that don't happen very often. So yeah, I did my first shots of the game were shooting his rhino, failing to wound it, command rerolling one of those dice to try to wound it, failing that too. He said, don't bother spending the command point, man. He gave me back the command point. I just had to do that's the store.
That's insulting. You will take my command point. You will like it, sir.
Well, the problem is I was floating command points for most of the game because the Wrathful Procession stratagems aren't very good. It doesn't really have much to boost your damage output.
Yeah.
So compared to my Lethal Sussy 5+E, Righteous Crusaders with all their extra stuff, I just kind of was bouncing off everything. So like he throws his chosen into me. Oh, there goes my entire Crusader squad and Helbrecht too. And he precisioned out the Castellan with the Fights First enhancement before I could use it with his Master Possession. Yeah. And I threw my Blade Guard into those 6 Blade Guard and a Judiciar into a squad of Chosen, and they just bounce. And then the Blade Guard lose. And I'm like, cool. It's one of those games where on my turn, I'm losing units.
Yeah.
Which always feels really bad.
A little problematic.
Yeah. And by turn 3, it was clear I was not going to win.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to leave in a bad mood though. So I just kind of took a minute, took a breather. I'm like, okay, let's see what we can do. I still want to play with this new stuff. And as bad as this started off, I did claw back pretty well. And especially because Grimaldus is a badass.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's got a 4-up invuln save, which is whatever, but his squad can get a 5-up feel no pain. And a bunch of Crusaders with Grimaldus are just really hard to chew through, even with good AP and so on. And yeah, I tried using the stratagem that gives me a 5-up feel no pain against dev wounds. didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And my gladiator came on late. He didn't have any tanks for me to take advantage of, but it still killed like 6 raptors, and then tank shocked 3 more off an objective and got me some points. But it wasn't points is points. It kind of backdoored its way into being useful.
Yeah.
And I ended up losing this game 59-77, which is honestly not a bad showing for how bad it was going.
I feel like, I mean, my game against Josh, like I felt like after the first round and a half where I was like down by like 17, 18 points, I was like, holy God, this is going to be a one-way disaster. But then I came back one round, just punched him in the face, like super hard.
Turn
and,
too.
And then I was like, all right, even if I lose this game, at least I did some damage here, and I like made, I did some Van damage, and I made you pay for
Van damage
for stepping out there a little bit. So, I mean, there were points where it was like, the chaplain has 1 wound on it. Yeah, I'll throw all 6 flamers at him just because I want him dead.
It was primary objective. You were playing to the objective.
I was playing to the objective.
And also being vindictive.
Mostly being vindictive.
Being vindictive is a skill.
Yeah.
That's the objective.
At the bottom of turn 2, I was like, hey, could you not bring anything in from reserves? It'd be really nice if you just left your obliterators and raptors in reserves. Could you please do that? And he's like, sorry, man.
Nope, they're coming in.
But honestly, Grimaldus, though, like, I just want to highlight him again, because after like chewing through a bunch of chosen, fighting through some legionnaires, his 1 surviving servitor and 1 crusader with a power fist waltzed into the middle of the table, and because they still had a crusader, they got to like advance. They got to reroll their charge distance and all that. And those 3 guys took out a squad of obliterators, took out a squad of cultists, and Grimaldus alone just took like 8 power fist hits and just save.
I tanked him.
Where were my 4-ups?
You made a lot.
I guess I had them.
You were using flux tokens for it, though.
I did.
So
flux tokens.
So my verdict is games with
Thumbs
Greasy are fun. Wrathful Procession sucks. Grimaldus rules. So.
My Grotmus formation is fun. I need to play it a couple more times, and obviously I could get units that are probably a little more optimized to a degree here. I think the one thing missing that would have been very helpful was something to respond to shooting in my opponent's turn. I don't have any stratagems that are like, oh, you can do this and it makes it one harder to hit or anything along those lines. And that really made me struggle, especially against an army that was shooting like
had a lot of hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s,
high powered, high wound,
high quality,
high quality shots. So anyway, fun game though.
Yeah.
Dude, his chaos army. I'd love to see more pictures of it. It looks sick.
It is a sick chaos army. I'm always very happy to play against it. I don't get to play against him often enough. Actually, I'm just going to paste one more in here of his dudes charging after one.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah,
right on, and I'll include these in the elite choice stuff that we post. Okay, with all that said, let's do this. We'll take a short break. We'll come back, and then we'll get into the meat of the show, which I'm actually very excited about this new format, and I'm excited to talk about these things because it's all very personal. So we'll be right back. All right, and we're back, and so we're going to talk. This is our 2024 year in retrospective, not just Games Workshop, which is cool. We know they put out a ton of models and
they did a couple things,
ton of books and all that goodness. But we thought we'd personalize it a little bit more this year, and I wanted to start off with something kind of very personal. All 3 of us. Is what's the favorite episode that we recorded this year? And Campbell, that can also, as I said in the notes, this should be a 40k Badcast episode in particular for you. That can be part of it. And in fact, let's start with you, Campbell. What was your favorite episode that you recorded this year and why?
Sure. It was episode 156, which is our competitive, casual, and narrative play episode.
Yeah.
Which you have referenced on the show frequently.
Many times.
I'll say.
That's a great episode.
And it was our last episode before we went on break. So it kind of was like
bittersweet.
We didn't know at the time. We knew it was like going to be one of the last. We didn't know it was going to be the last for a while. And for me, it felt very much like we were kind of going out on top in a way, because it's rare for us to stay on topic, especially about something that isn't what pizza toppings does your Primarch like.
That's weird.
Along those lines. Yeah, I know, it's bizarre. So actually, maybe it's notable because it's out of character, but it was a topic where we had a lot to say from our experience as just people who've been in this hobby for such a long time, and as people who've been across the competitive, casual, and narrative spectrum, which is, I guess, a 3-dimensional spectrum. But we've done all of this. I felt like we got to say a lot, and the amount of conversation that has been sparked by it in your Discord, in the Badcast Discord, with people we know at conventions and in person, like, it is. The thing is, these shows are great. I love doing these shows. But when the mic's off, that's it for a lot of the time.
Yeah.
No one is coming up to me and being like, "Oh man, remember that time in the Independent Characters episode 250 where you talked about painting a sentinel?" And I'm like, no one's going to do that. They might.
They don't do that to you?
No, not often. Maybe not.
They don't do that to
maybe.
you.
Here's the thing. I haven't painted a sentinel until this episode, so maybe things will change.
People are going to do it now.
People are going to do that. Please do.
Now you're going to get trolled with that statement. Yeah.
There's worse ways to be trolled.
Yeah,
than
right.
this.
That's true.
But it's rare to actually have something spark that much of an ongoing conversation outside of the confines of your show. Yeah. And this is one of those. And I really liked that. And it's one of the topics that's kept people talking, especially in the Badcast Discord over the last few months, because every time there's a new event, someone will be like, "Hey, what do I think about these sorts of things?" And I like that a lot. I like being able to share something and get even more back from the greater community.
Yeah, I think that and I'll go next if you don't mind,
go for
Josh. But I think that this episode that you guys did resonated with me because it touched on something dear to my heart, which is narrative play. And you guys are primarily tournament players at this point. And
we're always.
But you made such an interesting point that I was like, they're right. Like, it is difficult to get everybody on the same page of what narrative is, but to be on the same page of what a tournament is, it's like, I'm here to win. Winning's my theme, right? Like, that's bottom line. And that's very easy for everybody to understand. Like, I'm here to play the best game I can possibly play and win the game.
To do as well as I can.
Yeah. And so, the narrative aspect of it is just, it is very difficult to find people. And I related very much to what you guys said there. And so I think I put a note in your thing here. And I said, I agree. Like, this is just a fantastic episode on your guys' part. And it could be too that I'm not trying to steal any thunder, but it had shades of like topics we would have discussed here on this show, discussed in your show, but in a very different way. And I very much appreciated that. I have found over the years, as we have done episodes, some episodes resonate just like you said. Like, it causes a lot of conversation amongst people. It can cause emotional responses from people. It can cause people to disagree with you vehemently. Either way is fine. I'm not up here trying to be a lightning rod for anything. But one of those episodes that we did, which is maybe, as you said this, maybe why I picked this episode, is episode 233. Yeah. For us, of the Independent Characters, which was the psychology of collecting Warhammer 40k. We all have, whether you call them piles of shame or piles of opportunity or whatever you want to call it, we all have a backlog of models, and we went into why do people collect this stuff? Like, what is it that causes us to be like, I need to get this, or how is GW so good at FOMO and creating this feeling in people? And so we had Christopher Will guest on that show, who's an actual psychologist, and he could talk about, here's why people react this way, and here's some strategies.
The psychology of pursuit. And like, once you attain it, like you've really achieved most of the value of this thing. And then like afterwards, it's like, okay, like whatever.
And sometimes that's exactly
And how many of us as gamers like have this idea, have this like, I'm going to build this army, I'm going to convert it, and you buy all this stuff, and then you're like, well, I'm never actually going to do this now.
Right.
Because the idea was the excitement, but now the actual getting it done is like, it feels like a chore.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was just
it was a really good episode.
It was a really good episode. And there was also like a lot of Well, it's not necessarily wrong that you do that.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
what's sparking enjoyment in you. And
It's part of the hobby.
yeah. And so I thought it was I love sometimes when we have guests on and they open my mind to like different ideas. Like we hadn't pre-discussed a lot of this stuff with Will. Like we gave him the notes and he added a few points, but then the discussion was really, really good. And like you just said, Campbell, it sparked a lot of people responding to it and saying, you know, this is my take on it. And this is what I've had. And this is where I've struggled or where I've really enjoyed, you know, the hobby. And, somebody at Games Workshop at one point broke down for me, like they have a breakdown of like people who play consistently tournaments and change armies and this, that, and the other thing. They have these people don't play, but collect the models and paint them. These people have never played a game, buy models, then kind of drop out, you know, like they have like a rough idea percentage wise of what each of these brackets are that people are in. You know, and collecting for me is something I very much enjoy. And so Shell and I had a birthday party after COVID finally lightened up, and we had like 70 people here or so at my house. People from work, people in the neighborhood, friends, gaming friends of mine, that kind of thing. And so you have this kind of, I always reference the Seinfeld episode, worlds are colliding, Jerry.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, sometimes you don't want your work people and your, you know, but it was a great party. And what was really interesting was people from work who knew I play this game. They don't care. Like they tease me about it. I'm like, yeah, go ahead. I don't, you know, yeah, I openly play. Came in to my game room and saw the massive collection of painted stuff and were just like, oh, like I had no idea. And like, I remember somebody came and got me and they're like, can you come over here and explain to these people, you know, what this is? And I mean, I was 3 sheets to the wind before people even got to the event. So I'm coming out like, oh yeah, you know, but I'm still coherent enough to be able to say, don't go too deep. But what was interesting was people came away from that experience saying, you know, I didn't realize like how involved it is. Like, this is really interesting, you know, like they're not going to play, but they appreciated
seeing the museum here is one thing.
Yeah.
And it's so much more than just hearing, oh, like I play a game with little toy soldiers or little models, right?
Right.
Like seeing the extent, like it really is a museum.
I was going to play a game over at the Guild House, and I brought my army to work, and I didn't want to leave it in the car. So I brought it into the office, and it was in my tableware case, and people were coming by. They're like, what's this? And I'd show them. They'd be like, oh man, this is really interesting. You know, it always fascinates me when people are like, oh, I like to hide my hobby from, and they must be in a different environment than I am. And I'm in the Bay Area of California, and nerds run it, you know, but
yes.
But the fact is, you know, people will take interest in what you're interested in. So anyway, this episode for me meant a lot. I think it was our best episode. Chris was a fantastic guest. What about you, Josh?
Yeah. So I completely agree with that point. And it was probably the deepest, most enjoyable episode, but to do something different, I went with episode 239, which was our show of force, Leagues of Votann.
Yep.
And I had a good understanding of kind of the bullet point, like lore background of Votann, but really doing the deep dive, reading all of the lore, all the backstory, like there is so much more to it than I expected. And I think that's true of, I would say it's more true of Leagues of Votann compared to any of the other kind of newer editions of armies. I mean, it's the most well-rounded of newer armies, I should say.
Okay.
And I really appreciated the depth, the story, the approach of that. And then having Dave Taylor join us for that episode was fantastic. All of his insight, his passion, using his models, because this is when we were doing video too, like his models as showcasing the models, which he's just done a fantastic job with his army and all the insights. And it's just really fun to record with Dave and have him join us for that.
He's the nicest of guys.
He is the nicest guy.
Like, I feel so lucky to have him as a friend.
Yeah.
Because like he was such a name within GW and within the Warhammer community. He's just the guy.
Such a pillar of the industry.
I mean, that's the thing.
Like
the
nicest, humblest guy ever.
But that's the thing. Like, and this is where it kills me when people are like, oh, Games Workshop are on this lofty thing. And I'm like, have you met any of the design? Like they are just as passionate as you about this game. You know, they really, really are. They're just dudes, you know.
Yeah. When I interviewed Tuomas Pirinen and Mike Francina for Trench Crusade, they're the biggest fans of that thing. Right. And they're just excited to talk about the thing they love.
Yeah.
it's a thing you can buy. That's the only difference between them and any other fan is they're the ones who profit off it. But they're just regular folks excited to talk about what they love.
Yeah,
They go the same way.
These Show of Force episodes, Josh, I mean, like they got a reputation for getting people that I've fallen victim to it. I know several of us on the show. Like I was like, you know what? I think I am going to do Adeptus Custodes.
Yeah.
Nah,
that
I sold
was
those off.
the final note I had on that one is I really enjoyed that episode. Not only like the deep dive of the lore, the models, the range, having Dave join us, but I really appreciated, loved it, and managed not to start collecting a Leagues of Votan army, which is
smart
icing on the cake there. Like
smart.
Had I not already had Eldar in the works, maybe it would have happened. But I was like, nope. But yeah, it was just fun learning.
I appreciate how deep that lore went too.
Yeah.
Like it was cooler and more grimdark than I really gave it credit for.
Really different from anything
initially.
else too.
Yeah.
It was a good take.
It went deeper than I thought it was going to go, especially because it was a new faction, new codex.
Yep.
You expect it to just be like a pamphlet of
Right.
background and all that. But nope, it's thought out. There's reasons why they haven't been around for the last 10,000 years and so on.
It's clever. It's clever. And this is the thing that strikes me about the Eldar Codex. Like when we did that Show of Force on Eldar and we went into deep in the Eldar and I was like, and this was created how long ago? And like, it's still like relevant and cool and so well thought out. And, I think we have to appreciate that whether you like a faction or not, like they have done a tremendous amount. Even Tau, who, universally people, except the Tau players are like, I don't like Tau. They have a very interesting society and how it works. And it's
like the second Last Chancers novel, which that whole series I'm not like wild about.
Yeah.
But I still enjoyed them well enough. But the second Last Chancers novel, like in the author's notes, Gav Thorpe is like, I was asked to write a book to explain like Tau society and flesh it out. And that's all in that novel.
Yeah.
And it's pretty telling that the Tau are not the main characters there. It's the Last Chancers are, but still there is still a lot there, and there was a lot to add to that. But also, again, the first Tau Codex came out when a codex was a pamphlet.
Yeah.
Like it was a 20-page thing, and most of that was a painted guide.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right. So there have been a lot of models released this year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about what
we're going to go over every single one in exhaustive detail. Be here.
Don't tempt me. I will make this a 4-hour episode, Campbell.
Don't make me turn this podcast
around. Let's talk about what our favorite model releases of the year. And Josh, we'll start with you this time.
Okay. Yeah. So I went with the Necromunda Spires.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the collection of it. Not only the Aura Spire Hunters, but also the Malkadon, the Yeld, Jackals. Just the re-release of the Spires. This was a really cool nostalgic revisit of the Spires from previous original rendition of Necromunda. But just the posing, the way they brought this kind of, it is bug, it is Xenos, it is technology, and it's grimdark at the same time. And it's very different aesthetic from the rest of Necromunda. Just really cool models. Love the poses and very kind of true evolution and paying homage to the originals there. And I just absolutely love the models that we got there.
I feel like the old Spirers were some of the most dated of the old Necromunda models.
Yeah.
Especially because like the old Eshers, Jess Goodwin sculpted those. They still look great. But the old Spirers looked kind of goofy, and the new ones are a really good take on them. And I think really calling out they look like nothing else is very important.
I feel like they're a leap even bigger than like the new the teasers we've seen about the new Eldar Aspect Warriors.
Yeah.
Like those are a big leap.
Yeah.
And use modern techniques and look amazing, but the old ones were still pretty good.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
But this is a massive leap forward. Massive leap forward.
Yeah. I mean, the old ones were they're old metal models. So they were very two-dimensional, metal models,
flat.
But for how big they were, especially like the winged ones, and just how it was like, I'm like leaping, but it's like I've got one leg this way, this knee's lifting in the same direction.
People don't stand like that.
It's all so flat.
Yeah.
Where there's so much more dynamic, and the evolution really does make it look more just otherworldly.
All right. What about you, Campbell? What did you pick as these are your model set of the year?
The dang old dangles, the Dark Angels release this year was so nice.
It was good.
Like when
it was good.
re-release happened in 2017 with Dark Imperium, and you started getting Intercessors and all that stuff, and all the old models started to just look suddenly just kind of like yesterday's news. You know, the details didn't really hold up, the poses didn't hold up, the proportions didn't hold up, but something was lost. You know, you lost that chapter specific identity, you lost that gothic baroqueness, and the Templars brought that back in 2021 their own way, in a big way. The Indominus box did its own great job, but the Dark Angels release is, I think it low-key might be the best of them all. I think it's certainly better than the Blood Angels release that happened later. No shade on that. Just,
no, I agree. I agree.
But like,
the Lamardis is pretty awesome.
My vote for model of the year for 40k was the Inner Circle Companions. I love that kit. Those 3 dudes are just perfect.
I have been trying to think of an excuse to buy that Inner Circle companion kit for the entirety of this year, because I'm like, I guess I could convert 3 Judiciars out of that set or whatever, but they're so good. Yeah. And Asmodai, they just brought that Mark Gibbons artwork to life, which is, I'm not gonna say that's playing to the cheap seats, but that's playing to whatever seat I'm in right now, you know? And yeah, the whole Dark Angels release though,
it's stellar. It's fantastic.
Stellar. Yeah.
What was the starter set that had the last one that had come out that had Dark Angels? Is the
Dark Vengeance.
6th
edition starter set.
Which I have to tell you, those models were really good in that starter set. And this is like the next kind of step. You know, what was interesting is the first models that I saw them do in plastics that had like so much extra detail and stuff on them was way back in 4th or 5th edition, I think, when the Space Wolves came out. And all of a sudden you started seeing the plastics, like they had really kind of made some leaps and bounds. And I was like, oh man, this is really cool. And then they would slowly introduce it to others. And then when the Dark Angels, that Dark Vengeance set came out, I was very tempted to do Dark Angels at that point. If Lars were not doing them already, I probably would have, because I was like, I can get a hold of these models pretty easily. And now I'm certainly off the Space Marine train, but man, they are beautiful. Like, it is a great release. It is a great release for Dark Angels players, which is fantastic.
It was pretty telling on when they showed the Lion. I think that was last year.
Yeah.
And Dan and I were in at Nova.
I was there with you. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like, I picked the wrong army.
I was like, that came up, and that was the first time I had seen it. And I was like, that may be the best model GW's ever put out. Like, this, I was like, holy smokes. And the crowd erupted in cheers when that.
Yeah.
That's how you do a release.
Yeah, for real. I actually, even after I read Mike Brooks's The Lion, Son of the Forest book this year, and I was like,
all right.
It had some cool concepts.
It had some cool concepts. I like his writing, but I was also afterwards like, I guess I could get the Lion. It's the Black Library is a marketing wing of Games Workshop in a lot of ways, but
it's very good at that.
But they're very good at it.
Yeah.
So Carl, what about you?
For me, I had to go with that Night Lord's kill team, the Nemesis Claw. First off, I know it was popular because it was sold out immediately, and nobody could get a hold of it, and everybody wanted to get a hold of it. And then it finally came out, and people still like it sold very quickly. But also
the first like official Night Lords release since like, 2nd edition.
Yeah.
Since third.
Kind of a modernization of them a bit.
Yeah.
Right. Like before they had these ridiculous bat wings, and some of these models still have the bat wings, but they're like toned appropriate. They like feel like they fit the rest of the model now.
They're grimdark bat wings now.
Yeah. And
I know what you mean.
And, having put them together, I will tell you, there's a lot of, as I mentioned earlier, the instructions are wrong.
So you keep mentioning that. What is wrong about them?
Numbers are incorrect on the instructions, and
I wasn't sure if it's just a mismatch between.
So you're trying to figure out what this doesn't match that number. What is going on here? And they are very specific, like most GW models now. Like part 2 has to go to part 3, and you're like, but this is part 12. Am I doing this right? And so it added to confusion, especially to Shell, who was helping put them together, who is newer at putting these things together.
Yeah.
And so it struggled there, but man, in the end, they look fantastic. They look amazing. And I probably like them because I had been painting a lot of Night Lords for Shell's army at that point. And but it says something too. They did get voted model of the year by the Games Workshop, poll that they took.
Yeah.
So I think people really appreciated how that, and I was really hoping it was a precursor to to them coming out with a larger
codex
force or something. Not even just a codex, but like give us the bits across a larger force. And if I remember correctly, they came out initially with one of the Kill Team starter sets. And so then to buy them separate, they finally been released separate.
Yeah.
But that Kill Team starter set sold out like that. For that. Everything else was for sale online, but those were not available except for exceedingly high.
Or whatever. That's just packing material.
That's right.
The actual good stuff.
That's right.
Right.
It's the packing material.
Night Lords are just they are the edgiest Shadow the Hedgehog Chaos Space Marines out there, and they're so freaking cool. I know their logo is the Overkill Band logo, but I don't care. They are cool. I reread ADB's Night Lords books during COVID, because I've read them 2 or 3 times.
They hold up.
They hold up. They are so good. Again, speaking of very edgy, there are some bits in those that are real grim, real dark. But these models finally look as cool as the covers of those books.
Yeah. And this is why Shell picked that army. She loved that series.
Good series.
We know Erin. But she's like constantly like, oh yeah, ever since that series, she's been focused on it. And now it's kind of coming to the table and she's really, really enjoying it. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right. Favorite game of Warhammer 40k you played this year? Let's start with Campbell.
Yeah.
Campbell, what was your favorite game you played this year?
So I was at Storm of Silence in May, which is a GT in Spokane. And I was at this point thinking the 3-0 bracket. And it was my 4th game of the event, and I was against Kazra Hushidar, who I think Stat Check is his podcast. He's on one of them. I should have checked that before the show. Anyway, this was beat for beat the best game of competitive 40k I've probably played my entire life. Like, this was the two of us just like in it, locked in on the entire time.
Nice.
And this is kind of where we had an episode where I think playing by intent came up as like a topic. Yeah. And this was the game I played that really brought the idea of playing by intent to the fore. It's the one where I kind of was like taught how to, it's not necessarily saying you have to be taught, but it's still saying you need to be demonstrated. So when he's like, hey, by the way, at the end of each of my turns, I'm going to be picking up these scouts. If you want to remind me, please do. And it kind of signifies this like greater cultural shift away from like the gotcha sort of aspect of gaming, because I know that was like reputationally a big thing in competitive gaming,
such as I've deep struck this, that's the end of your movement,
right?
Precisely. Like, or that one fairly infamous picture of a guy who infiltrated a bunch of crew along the deployment zone of his opponent, and they couldn't deploy, so he automatically won, like that sort of thing. And this was just this kind of new, like, hey, by the way, I represent a really good team, but this is also what I'm doing, and we're willing to take things back and so on. Like, it was very permissive, very open, and we were both like, his army looked freaking gorgeous. It's one of the most beautiful Ultramarines armies I've ever seen. He actually had a Goonhammer feature a few years ago, showing his Ultramarines, and they are gorgeous.
Nice.
And it was also really cool mismatch, because playing Marine on Marine, it's like, all right, it's a mirror match. No, he was Vanguard, like uppy downy, everything picking up, going away. And I was just my Black Templars, Land Raiders, punch you in the face. And there was this one point where I needed, like, we were both doing like the trigonometry around here over like, I need to make this charge because, I've got my Hellbrick move up, and he's got this thing with a Calgar and a bunch of Eradicators and Apothecary Biologists. It's a nasty unit, or it was his Centurions, a similarly nasty unit. And we're measuring it out, and it's like, hey, I need 11 inches to get this charge. I need to get around these scouts or Vanguard guys or whatever to get this charge, or else I'm not going to make it. And I rolled boxcars because Crusaders get to reroll that. And he was just as excited as I was, which is also always great. Like, as opposed to, getting all bummed out. And it was a razor's edge game. I lost by like 8 points or something like that. And at the end, I go in for the handshake, and he goes, no. And he comes around the table and gives me
nice.
And
that's awesome.
Every time we saw each other for the rest of the event, it was always,
that's really cool.
Like,
yeah, that's rad.
That is super rad.
That's memorable. And the close games are always the best games.
What about you?
So,
didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just gonna say that is where I kind of went from like competitive 40k is like a thing I like to competitive 40k is a thing I love.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool. It's too bad you're so bad at it.
Shame.
Still, all about the people you play with.
What about you, John?
So I couldn't pick one. So I have two, but I'll keep it short. So
Okay.
The best game of 40K I played was against Brian and his World Eaters. This was, I think, a 1,500 point game, kind of mid.
Until today's game.
That's this year. We're talking last year.
Oh, right, right.
So this was an incredibly close game. Like this was, I think, a 2-point game. So, and it was just two assault armies going after each other, fully painted, beautiful, just really.
You were playing what?
This was Sharkadons against his World Eater. So yeah, two armies just getting after each other, just blood everywhere. Everybody's getting murdered. It was
Dude, Brian knows how to paint too. His stuff
Brian's also
really
a fantastic painter and a really smart player. Also, he doesn't play a lot of games, but when he actually can make it happen, like he and I always have really close games. So this was like, I think it was a 76 to 78 point game.
Wow,
super close, pretty high scoring for both sides for that close of a game, and just like very very tactical, but really fun. And then so that was like the best kind of technical game of 40K played. But then the most fun game I played, I think, was actually at Adepticon last year. With me and Cheyenne were partnered against Aaron and Adon when they were doing Grey Knights, and we were doing Team Fist Bump with Blood Angels and Necrons. And it was a really fun game playing with a bunch of friends at Adepticon. Team game that way. Adon was just a really really fun opponent to play against. There, like he's got a little dice jail, so like if dice fail him, he threw the dice inside of jail, and like, it's an actual like little 3D printed jail that has bars and everything. It
puts little handcuffs on his.
Yeah, it was like,
I assume it reached maximum capacity.
Yeah. There was a lot of it was like the commissar. I mean, had he been playing guard, he would have been like executing his dice on site there. It's just like, but yeah, and he's super fun game. They set everything up for us, so we had a very good turn 2. So it ended up being just a really fun game. That the game was kind of over from probably bottom of turn 1. Like it was going to be pretty well decided. So it just ended up being a really fun time playing it out with friends. So yeah,
1,500 miles to go play with friends.
Yeah,
you can play locally.
None of them are that close. I guess
now,
but
yeah, that's true. Aaron is, but anyway, yeah, I chose, and this is kind of a gimme, but I chose a game I played against Shell. So Shell, and the reason I chose this game is because so this year Shell has played more 40K than she's ever played before.
Yeah.
And she's got a fully painted 2,000 point army at this point.
And growing.
Mm-hmm. And every time we've played, I've played it's been almost mirror matches, you said, like chaos on chaos, right? We've been using the same detachment so that I could like walk her through, like, here's how the detachments work, and remember this and remember that. She's better at remembering Dark Pact than I am. But so we would play a lot of the same, and she'd be like, oh, I like how this unit worked. How come I don't have one of those? I need one of those. Hence the Vindicator. But I decided, I'm going to play a different army this time. And I brought Zeech Demons. This is before the Scintillating Legion, the thing came out for the
Gravis attachment.
And it was really the first game, like, she hands down like won. Like, I pulled no punches. I tried everything I could. It's not the greatest army to play against, but I think it gave her a different perspective, because all of a sudden she's not fighting against Marines. And I'm just like, no, these guys just ignore your AP. So I just roll these 4s, or don't roll these 4s, as the case may be. and so I think she had a lot more fun in that game, because she got to see how it was. It's not just chess. You're not just playing against the same army. It's like a whole different, now I've opened the door to a whole different ball game. And so, I had a lot of fun with that. I had a lot of fun watching her win and get excited about how her guys were doing. And, when she would lose guys, she'd get upset about it, but then, I'd be like, don't quit. This is the thing I've been trying to impress upon her. It's like, a lot of times she'll be like, there's no way I can win this game. I'm like, don't quit. You'd be surprised how often that kind of turns around on you all of a sudden. Today's game, notwithstanding, I'm down by 20 points or so, 17 points. And I'm like, holy moly, this is going to be one side. Next round, I'm like, oh, I'm ahead.
I'm up too. That was a good comeback.
Yeah. I mean, having seen there is usually, as a player over a long time, there's like a tipping point where you go, okay, now there's no chance of you winning. But there are times where I'm like, don't count yourself out yet. And this was a time where I think she got to see like the army behave differently. We had a lot of fun playing the game. She had a lot of fun. I like seeing her whole army on the table painted. It looked good.
It's a gorgeous army. Yeah.
I got that lightning down really good.
Yeah.
And then she does all the detail works on them. So I'm happy to do that. But it was just a lot of fun. And in many ways, I'm kind of living the dream. I got a spouse that plays with me, and whether it's board games or 40K or whatever, she's open to it and giving it a try. And so it's been a whole lot of fun. So I think that was probably my most rewarding game of the year. So that's me.
It sounds like a culmination of like her journey in a lot of ways.
For sure.
Shepherding. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm really curious to see her play against like other different armies now, and start to see that, wow, it's, 17, 18 armies, there's so many different combinations.
There's a lot of variables.
Yeah.
It's a big game. It's why it's impossible to balance.
Yep.
All right. Favorite other game? Could be GW, does not have to be GW. What other gaming stuff have you been doing, whether it's role playing, whatever, that really kind of resonated? And the reason I brought this up is because this year I've played more 40K than I have in many years, and I'm very much enjoying it.
Yeah.
When people are suggesting other games, I'm like, 40K is in such a good spot right now. I'm really, really having fun with it. I don't see a need to back Trench Crusade is one of the ones that I was like, it looks fantastic. Like I love the lore, and the models look amazing.
The aesthetics is
I'm so, I'm into it, but I'm like, you know what, Carl, let's be realistic. You don't have time for this. Like,
Adepticon, they've got some learning stuff.
Shut up.
All 3 days.
Shut your
I'm going to
mouth.
go try it.
Yeah.
I'm not buying it.
You've already got a resin printer, Carl.
Shut up.
You basically already paid for it.
What? It's basically free.
It's like $10 for STLs.
Anyway,
It's pretty much free.
I got to stay focused on what I'm focused on. So, but other than that, what have you been playing? And I'll go first.
Yeah.
Because I've mentioned it a couple times already. Cthulhu Death May Die.
Yeah. It's a fantastic game.
It is a fantastic board game with tons of replayability, because even you play scenarios, but those scenarios you can change who the main god is that you're fighting against. And it changes entirely the way the game plays.
There's about 500 characters to choose from.
Yeah, it really is. You have tons of different characters to play. It's such an interesting experience in the realm of board games for Cthulhu, because board games for Cthulhu tend to be much like the role-playing game, about investigation and figuring out what's going on and then trying to prevent the bad thing from happening. In this game, the bad thing's happening.
Yeah.
Like the cultists are already summoning the god.
Yep.
You got to go in and kill everybody.
Deal with the consequences.
And then, stop the god's going to come through. You got to kill him before he manifests in his full glory. So it's really just a game that is super fun, offers a lot of variety, and it's easy to teach other people, because it's like, look, you get these 3 actions. You can double them all up if you want. You can do them, you get 3 actions, then you draw this card, then you draw that card, or you fight monsters. Boom, done. And so we've gotten a lot of people just to play it. And by the second or third round, they're like, yeah, okay, I got it. So
sold.
Now it's solved the problem, and it becomes a real puzzle. But it's a beautiful game. It's fun to play. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. We have a lot of good times with it. So that's me.
Yeah.
What about you, Josh? What's your...
So for me, it has been this
I knew this.
this last year. Legions Imperialis. No surprise. I've played so many games of it, and it for me it's the perfect game, for lack of a better word, for what does it for me. Like the tactical back and forth alternating unit activations. Not even like, you are never not in this game. Like, you can Overwatch as many times as you want. You're never limited to like 1 Overwatch per game round or anything like that. So, everything moves at the same, like back and forth on movement, back and forth on shooting, like you are never not engaged in this game. So you hit,
you're in it from beginning to end.
You're in it from the beginning, and it doesn't let up until the end. And half the armies on both sides die in turn 1. So the game speeds up, and then it's fun. Like, so much happens in the game. And so the specific game I'm calling out on this one, not just Legions of Prowess in general, which you should play it. It's amazing. But, the final game, this is game 5 at Tacoma Open.
Yeah.
Was the best game hands down I've had, period, of Legions Imperialis. It was just so neck and neck, so close, so tactical, so like strategic, tactical, point, counterpoint, maneuvering with coverage. Just like it was such a satisfying game against a really fun opponent, a guy named Chris, who's up in Portland area.
Yeah.
I was playing against him and his Astra Militarum and my Thousand Suns. It was a fantastic game that is in a fantastic game system, and I'm really, really enjoying that game. So that definitely had to get the call up for me.
Awesome. All right, Campbell.
Every time I see pictures of painted Legions Imperialis games from Josh, I'm like, oh, how much does it cost you? I don't have a local seat.
It gets
That's
so
the
much
problem.
attention at AdeptCon at Tacoma Open. Like so many people who are not playing it, like just absolutely come over and like look at the games and just drool over it, because it is the true representation of
It's a war
scale, right? You've got Titans, you've got drop pods, you've got tanks, you've got mass amounts of infantry, tanks everywhere, planes coming in. Like it's a really cool representation, and it plays so well.
You know what's interesting? You talked about like the back and forth because it's alternating activation and all this stuff, and I know a lot of people want to see 40k go to like an alternating activation type of model. And do you remember? It was back when like I think 6th edition was coming out, and somebody said, "Oh, here was the leaked rule book," and like it was like this huge rules of like alternating activations, and like it was like a huge wish list of what everybody wanted in the game, and somebody had took the time to make that look like a freaking rule book.
Yeah,
like who has that kind of time? Like,
nerds.
It was, and I knew people like there was some podcasts at them. They're like, we played it, you know. I'm like, okay, you know.
If you fabricate a playable hoax rule set and it's
Success,
congratulations,
right?
That's a good job.
Just go write your own rule set.
Here's my tinfoil hat theory that you will probably say is wrong, because it is probably wrong. That person was like, "Hey, Games Workshop, here's my job application."
It's possible. It could be. You know,
that leaker's name, Robin Cruddick.
They're like, "You're hired." That's funny.
Before that, yeah.
Yeah, he was there long before that. All right, what about you, Campbell? What'd you pick?
All right, so this summer, especially, I was like so locked in with like I was taking all these classes that were just dominating my life, and the only gaming I got in was like comp 40k practice for the most part. So I was just like, so it was always kind of still. I still have a lot of fun playing competitive 40k, but I'm still like using my whole brain, you know, being very like conscious, very active.
Yeah.
So we had this one event run at Modern Games, which was a BattleTech Alpha Strike draft day, where basically you bought in for like a little cost, and my friend Forrest was running it, and you basically would like draft mechs from each box, and each box has like cool cards and the mech and all that stuff until everyone got a lance. And then and then it was like a 12-person free for all with like a GM'd sort of event where there was like, you know, he was having like events happen, and like you would walk over mystery spaces that could heal their mechs or have hidden extra bonuses or whatever. It was just this kind of madcap, very old school con game.
I remember hearing you talk about this.
Yeah, I remember hearing you talk about this on Badcast. Sounded like a really fun day.
It was really fun. It's not how I would do every game by any stretch of the imagination, but having this like managed, provided, like all materials provided, like bring a tape measure, war game day sort of thing is the kind of thing I haven't gotten to do much outside of like my youth going to Historicon and playing with my dad's friends when I was a kid. So this really brought me back in a lot of ways, while also being a very modern, fun rule set, and games just get out and play a game with the pressure off. Yeah, because no one took it seriously, because no one could take it seriously, because it was, you know, it's
silly enough that you can't take it seriously.
Exactly. It's like getting mad at Munchkin, you know, don't bother.
How invested could you possibly be?
Were the draft models already painted? I don't remember.
No,
they were in box, right?
They were in box.
Yeah.
And the BattleTech models are all pre-assembled plastic at this point.
Right.
You can still get the medals if you want to, but they're not my favorite. Right. And yeah, it was just like you grab box, first person picks the first mech, and you just go around that way. It was a lot of fun.
Still cool. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. We're going to take a short break. We'll come back, and then we'll go into part 2 of our top stuff of the year. So we'll be right back. All right, and we're back. And continuing along this theme, I want to talk about what is your favorite gaming moment of the year. This doesn't necessarily have to be 40K, but ideally it would be, or at least something GW centric. Josh, let's start with you.
Yeah. So mine's not 40K.
Okay.
It's Legions Imperialis.
What?
Surprise.
It's GW.
It's GW.
And it's in the
30K.
It's in the 40K universe.
So this moment is very specific to that game I was just talking about in the last segment of that final game at Tacoma Open. And I was like, I can do the smart thing or I can do the fun thing. The smart thing is take a Thunderhawk full of Assault Marines and assault a bunch of Ogryn on my opponent's home objective and claim the objective. Ogryn's hit back really hard, but it's like I will probably have enough numbers to take this objective from them, which it being my opponent's home objective was worth a ton of points to me.
Yeah.
It's like, I could do that. That's a smart thing, but I'm going to do the fun thing instead. So what I did was I took this Thunderhawk full of Assault Marines and I assaulted a Warlord Titan. Warlord Titans in Legions Imperialis are, like, aside from a War Master, the biggest, baddest thing in the entire game.
Yeah.
It is, the way combat works is each combat by default you're rolling 2d6 and adding your combat value to this roll. Warlord Titans add something like 24 to that roll.
Jeez Louise.
So it's like 2d6 plus 24. Like it's ballpark 24. I don't remember the exact number now.
Whatever. It's a high number.
It's really high up there. So my Assault Marines on the charge are 2d6 plus 4.
Okay.
So I have to, but the cool thing about Legions Imperialis is that every time a unit fights against a unit that has already fought, that new unit gets to add an extra dice.
Okay.
And then you max out at 66. So my Assault Marines, like the
6d6, not 66.
Six,
just to be
six-sided
clear.
dice. Yes.
You're not throwing 66 dice.
It sounds pretty positive, but
So I'm only plus 4, but Warlord Titans only have 6 wounds, but they are, again, plus 24 on the close assault. And if you're shooting at them, they get void shields. So you have to strip all the void shields and then deal with the wounds.
Okay.
And like something like a Baneblade has 2 wounds. So like
Can you not-
6 wounds is a big deal.
Can you not attack them in close combat, avoiding the void shield stuff? Like,
You can.
Okay,
Yeah. So
like
that's why I
Adeptus
assaulted
Titanicus.
them with
Okay.
Assault Marines. So this was the fun thing to do. I got 8 bases of Assault Marines in contact. And it's hard to do that against anything except for Titans.
Yeah.
But bases are so large of Titans that you can surround them pretty well. And Assault Marines are fast. So with the charge, they get a good charge. And the Thunderhawk delivered them.
Right.
They are the only thing that can charge out of a Thunderhawk because they're using their jump jets to assault out of a flyer, which is, again, super thematic. So it's just like this moment. And it of course came down to the very last roll on bases. Like the first 2 guys absolutely died. There's no chance that they could, get there. And then, so the first 2 guys die. And then like just on dice, like I'm winning by like 1 on this combat because I'm rolling
nickeling and diming.
by the time I'm actually starting to do wounds, I'm doing 46 plus 4. And like on a decent roll, I still lose. Like on statistics, I still lose. But it went just my way enough that on the very last fight, the 8th fight of this combat, I destroy the Warlord Titan. He blows up, kills all my Assault Marines, and much of everything
That's
else that's
awesome.
over there. But like it was the super. Again, that was just such a fun, tight, tactical back and forth game. Really close game. Super fun opponent. This moment is like, again, I could do the smart thing to like I'm going to win the game, or I could take out the Warlord Titan, and this is just going to be super fun and like just be kind of that capstone moment for us to both enjoy. And like we had like tears of joy at the end of that fight. Where we're just like, oh man, it was just amazing. It was magical.
Yeah. All right, Campbell, what about you?
so I kind of had to like rewrite this a few times. So there's this 10-point upgrade in Righteous Crusaders called Witch Seeker Bolts.
Okay.
And it gives your Templar guy's gun anti-psych or 4-up, devastating wounds precision. All right, on a bolt pistol, who cares? On a plasma pistol, you're not really cooking. On a Tech Marines Forge Bolter, though, you suddenly have a heavy bolter sniper rifle that does devastating wounds. And I had this game with a listener, actually, named Evan at Storm of Silence. And he was like, okay, I've got this one special character Inquisitor with this Custodes unit. She makes them untargetable outside 12 inches. She's got this indirect fire. She makes them so badass. And he's like talking up how badass and useful this character is. And it's like,
Have you met Precision?
Keep going. He moves that
The more
squad up.
badass he is,
And
the better I'm going to feel about when I kill him.
Precisely. And my tech brain just steps out from behind the Land Raider and just pop, 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 dead. 6 dev wounds, gone. A game later, I'm playing a World Eaters player. They fly Angron at me. He's not even a psyker. Pop, 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 6 dev wounds, dead. And this, every single time I use this, it just pops off. I didn't quite kill Magnus. I got really close in another game. Anytime someone has a librarian, I'm like, where's that librarian at? Oh. And it is this 10 points of like equal parts terror weapon and comedy routine.
Yeah.
And that is my like ongoing favorite gaming moment of the year.
That's amazing.
I love it so much.
That's a good combo.
And it's because no one thinks about Tech Marines outside of Ironstorm.
Right.
And no one thinks about Witch Seeker bolts and the Templar detachment.
No.
Who cares? But that is one of my favorite secret sauces. And dear listener, you now have the recipe to that secret sauce.
My Tech Marine wasn't nearly that cool.
No,
I mean, he was cool, but not that cool.
Thank God he didn't have those in this game because everything I had was Psyker. Oh my God, that would be awful against the Siege Army.
It's really fun.
My favorite moment was at Nova this year. Dave Taylor and I played a game finally, and like we'd been talking about it forever, and finally we get to play this game. And I feel bad because Dave came over and he goes, "That was the worst game of 40k I've ever played." And I'm like, well, it's not because of me. Like,
it's all your fault.
It just, poor Dave, like nothing worked for him. His dice were terrible. My dice were super hot. Like it was just one of those things that just,
and that never happens.
After, like I said before, after we played that Titanicus game, I was like, I'm going to quit dice games. Like all of a sudden I was on this like winning streak of hot rolls for a while until it petered off. But I was playing Dave and his Leagues of Votan, which we had done the show of Force Votan, so kind of coming full circle and seeing them in person. I mean, they are just gorgeous. They're gorgeous. And it's so sad to see them get taken off the table so fast. There was literally this point where like I drove my Vindicator out to the middle of the table and he charges it with a bunch of these heavy weapon wielding guys. And I'm like, I'm going to Overwatch with this Vindicator and always be dark packed in. So I dark packed, and out of like the 8 shots, I roll 6 sixes that explode in like 12 sixes.
Yes,
and just like
sustained Overwatch is
wipe his unit on the charge. And he was just like, and it was both like the most glorious moment I've ever had next to
bad.
But I also felt so bad. And I felt awful when he was like, this is the worst game of 40k. I'm like, I don't want it to be a worst game against me. Like it's supposed to be fun. But I have to admit, like that
it
Vindicator,
felt good to crush him.
Holy smoke. No, not crush Dave, but like seeing that Vindicator, I was like, oh my God, this thing is a beast, man. It's so brutal. Like you saw it today. Like you pull it out, I'd be like, yeah, it's a D6 plus 3 shots. Go ahead. You know, I'm like, I know exactly what it does.
Profile better than I did.
I knew that profile really well. So it was just of this year. That is the one moment that like leapt to the forefront of my brain when I was like, what's my best moment of the year? Yeah.
The one that makes Dave cry.
The one that makes Dave Taylor cry. I'm sorry, Dave. And speaking of events, a lot of things we just talked about were all at events that we went to. So I think the best event of the year for me. Now, I didn't go to Adepticon this year because that probably would have hands down been my choice. I love Adepticon so much. It's my favorite. But I was in Australia this year instead. We all make choices. And so Australia was awesome. The Maelstrom Mixer, which the guys here at the local club down at the Guild House.
Faultline 40k.
The Faultline 40k guys down at the Guild House threw this thing called the Maelstrom Mixer, which was a narrative, thematic event.
It's a whole weekend.
To your point, Campbell, like some people embrace that narrative more than other people. When you have that many people there, that's what you're going to get. I chose to embrace the narrative pretty hard. I played the one drawback of this. So the event was fantastic. Like the terrain was amazing.
So you played all the Eldar, right?
They did, yeah. They did a ton of tables, but every game I played against was Eldar or a Dark Eldar player at one point. Every single, like it just so happened like that was the battle zone I was in. So like all of my games were against Eldar. I learned a lot about fighting Eldar in that particular scenario. And I was learning my Chaos Army pretty well, to the point where now I feel really, really practiced. Like today when we played our game and I was running the Zeech Demons, like I'm just not as practiced. I had to constantly, okay, let me see what I can do here. Whereas my Chaos Army, I've got it down to all the beats.
You got the reps in.
But this was a lot of fun. I mean, and the guys really did an amazing job getting everything set up. It was right, Arya. It was a great venue. It was, just super fun. There's a bar right there. There's food available. The people were a lot of fun to play. It was a fantastic event, and it was local to me. So
the pictures looked incredible.
That was great. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, good looking armies, great terrain.
Yeah,
good group of dudes.
Yeah, it was really, really fun, and I will go again next year.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was that was really close to my anniversary, which is why I couldn't. Right. But this year, hopefully, I can recap it.
It's worth going. Yeah, it's worth going. You can play Eldar.
Yes, I will. There will be lots of Eldar being played in 2025.
So that was the best event I attended this year. And I went to Tacoma. I went to Nova. Yeah. Nova, I did a lot of work at Nova. I was working for Table War Charity, so we didn't do a lot. It was fun. The people there are great. I got to see you and Dan Campbell, and I got to see a lot of people I knew, and we hung out, went to dinners. Tacoma was great. We went out to dinners afterward. The event itself for me was, not what I was kind of expecting. So it kind of, like, if I were to go again, I would have a different expectation.
The narrative crusade was different when you were expecting. Also,
yeah, but Jesus, that terrain was amazing looking too. Yeah. So, but for me, Maelstrom Mixer here in San Jose, fantastic event. Can't promote it enough.
Yeah, fantastic.
What about you, Josh?
Yeah, so the two main events I went to this year were Tacoma Open and Adepticon. Tacoma was fantastic. Like, I played 10 amazing games. Yeah. And I can't complain about that. But all 10 of them were amazing.
And we stayed at a Russian gay nightclub upstairs.
We stayed above a nightclub that was thumping. Yeah.
That's the only way to stay in Tacoma while spending less than $2,000.
Josh is not allowed to pick. Josh is not allowed to pick the VRBOs anymore.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I booked that the same night I bought tickets for it. And I was like, oh, cool. The spot's like within walking distance. No. And like, no, I would not stay there again. But it added to the experience. For me, the event of the year though was Adepticon. Like, playing Legions Imperialis, playing Space Hulk with the Basement of Death guys. Like,
they're so good.
Running into Dave Taylor a bunch of times throughout the con, like meeting him in person for the first time, and like having that kind of friendship already automatically built in there. Always good catch up with Dan, and Campbell was not there, so miss Campbell, but
he'll be there this year.
He will be there this year.
Playing Space Hulk with us.
I will.
Oh yeah.
TD met TD at Adepticon. He ended up coming to my house, played a game of Legions Imperialis with him.
Nice.
So had heard about him from the Badcast a bunch of times from Top Dude, as you may have heard of. TD, Top Dude. Yep. So had him over and like made that personal connection at Adepticon. Nice. He came to my house because he moved to the Bay Area here, and look forward to playing more games with him. Yeah, playing with Cheyenne, Don, Aaron, all that. Just a bunch of really, really fun games.
What'd you do in downtime?
Friends.
Like when you weren't playing, what were you doing?
What's downtime?
Yeah. Okay.
You
book too much. I need downtime at those events just to hang with people and drink and talk, and it's so fun.
We did a lot of just hanging out though. Like, there was actually, when we had downtime, it was usually good mealtime, but there was like good groups of us gathering together for meals, and just a lot of like,
that's so fun.
Good natured banter among friends, that like the friends we've met at cons, plus all the friends that obviously travel from this area to like, and catching up with the Don. Like, Don was, pulling pranks on Campus and Cheyenne, and like just having fun, and a very, very
crazy guy.
Like, it's like, he was getting wild. It was a really, really fun time. It's just a good experience, great games, and always catching up with friends near and far there.
Campbell, I knew this was going to be your answer.
It basically almost always is.
Yeah.
Nova Open.
Yeah.
It's my home con, even though I don't live anywhere near it. Even though I haven't lived in DC since I was 5, Nova is still my home con.
Did you play the tournament?
Yeah, I played in the GT again this year. This is their second year at the new venue, and they actually took a lot of feedback from the first year and implemented it. So
did they implement better lighting in the?
Yeah, you could actually see my army. It's why
it was worse last time.
Oh, last year it was like being a junior prom. Last
year
it
was
like
dark in there. Like it was dark in there. Like and everybody was butt to butt. Like it was crowded.
last year you couldn't see that my army was like painted.
Holy
Like,
smokes,
Tight,
dude.
dark, and moist.
It was junior prom.
it was junior prom. Like it seriously looked like we were going to be slow dancing. I mean, we're basically that close together anyway. Yeah, last year, growing pains. And last year there's also like a whole key card problem where like we got there and none of the doors opened for the first night.
Oh no.
Unless someone escorted you to your room and like had the override key.
Oh my
like,
God.
It had a lot of problems the first year.
This is the hotel, by the way, that Reagan was shot outside of.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. We took the picture in front of the plaque doing the finger guns and the whole thing.
I think there's a t-shirt you can do.
Yeah,
Jeez.
we do sell a t-shirt, which I saw many people wearing,
Nice.
which
That's awesome.
always makes me very happy. Or the stickers or what have you. But yeah, anyway, Nova is my home con. It is like, in addition to just being like where I kind of stepped out into the greater 40k community and it is the birthplace of the Badcast, like hanging out there. It's like, yeah, of course, I'm there at the end, which always rules. I'm there with my Nova crew, who I'm used to seeing every year, which rules. I'm there with a lot of people from the old Something Awful forums who are still like kind of floating around in my sort of vicinity. But there's also like Badcast listeners and Goonhammer readers, which is wild to be recognized for my writing. So like my face is not in my articles,
Right?
But there's also like our mutual friends and all these people who've kind of grown. So like I'm there, and I'm run to my friend Austin, who I used to play Warhammer with when we were in high school, and seeing him like growing up, I haven't seen him in over a decade, was really cool. Seeing like the crew from Maine and seeing all my other like Peter from New Jersey, and just seeing all these people come together rules. It's worlds are colliding. Because you don't expect the random connections you make when you talk to the manager at the GameStop in college to pay off 17 years later.
Right.
Because like Jake from Build Paint Play, who does the show with Dave Taylor, he's there, and he and I have just like, he runs Alpha Omega Hobby in Boston. I used to go there all the time, and he worked at the GameStop that I bought like the first Alan Wake.
Oh, that's so funny.
Small world.
Yeah, that's so funny. Jake and I talk a lot these days.
Yeah, he rules. I walked by that GameStop every day in college.
That's funny.
So seeing all these people come together was obviously seeing you too while you were busy squatting the squats
for a minute.
was really cool. And yeah, it's I didn't do great in the GT. I did make top cut for painting, which was awesome. So I did get like a little medal for that.
Then they turn the lights on. They're like,
they did turn the lights on for that, that's why I got into the painting thing this year, I think, because I didn't last year, and I have the same freaking army.
Black army to dark room, not so great.
Yeah, dark army in a slightly better lit room.
I went and watched you guys do your live show. It was fun.
Yeah,
that was a good time.
Blast. I was very anxious going into that, but again,
it's super comfortable. Once you get going, you were fine.
Yeah, that's fair. But also,
I was those hats well.
Giant hats. When I brought that hat home, my wife was like, "Campbell, I hate this stupid hat."
That hat's amazing. They're not cheap either. I looked at them and I was like, "Holy crap, these are expensive."
No, I was looking into it for my day-to-day wear.
Like, I can't afford this wardrobe.
Yeah, no, it keeps my head warmer than any wool hat does. Like, that much. But yeah, seeing 20 years of people I've gamed with come together in one place,
that's fantastic.
Absolutely rules.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Fitting home con name then.
All right. Hobby progress. It's a big part of our show. What are you most proud of in your hobby progress or habby progress?
That's our TMTM. That's our trademark.
Yep. Care of Badcast. What are you most proud of that you've accomplished this year? Campbell, let's start with you.
I mean, I did paint 153 models. My goal was to paint 150, so
that's incredible.
I feel real good about it. I think my record's like 228.
Jeez,
but I think I was between jobs when I did that, or I was either way playing hooky. But I got into Warcom twice, which felt fantastic. Awesome for
that was
the
great.
Witness and for my Dark Oath Marauders back in like March or April. But I also, as you saw with my Sentinel, I leveled up my weathering techniques.
Yeah, absolutely.
I try to do something new with every project I do, and my Guard are going to be they're my new weathering project. So, maybe 2025, if I come back, it'll be, I learned how to weather even better because I'm still working on how to do the mud and the treads and all that. Yeah. Leveling up my weathering technique and getting onto Warcom, those are my big things.
That's fantastic.
Nice.
Josh, what about you?
Yeah. So I'm most proud of painting more models in Campbell, but I'm counting individual models on Legions Imperialis bases that are
overachiever.
You have to count by base.
Scale overachiever.
8 millimeter. Yeah, so mine's kind of twofold. It's painting up that entire Legion Imperialis army. Very happy with that turned out.
It looks fantastic.
The candied metallic matte red is not easy to do, but I'm very happy with it. Like it's easy to do. It's just a lot of steps, I should say. It is easy to do, but it's not. It's involved. But the thing for me that really kind of takes the cake on that is getting the Eldar started. The Craft World Chianchar paint scheme, the orange and bone.
Have you seen it in person yet, Campbell?
The only things that Josh has seen in person are his Delac.
Yeah, wait till you see these. They look great. Really, really good, dude. It looks beautiful.
Getting the at Tacoma Open, getting the honorable nod for the Thousand Suns was great, but actually getting the trophy for best painted for the Eldar Combat Patrol was that's the highlight for me. I'm so happy with how that army's turning out. And as I talked about earlier in the hobby progress of this episode, like I'm building a ton and I can't wait to start painting the rest of that army.
I'm curious to see how you do like the Wraith Knights, Wraith Lords, that kind of thing. It's going to look really cool.
It's all planned out. It's all painted in my head already.
And you've elevated yourself at that step too. Yeah. For me, I think painting 2 Chaos armies in the span of time where I was out of work, just taking a break from work, and like in particular the leap I took for Shell's army like literally had me going back looking at my Black Templar going, oh man, her army looks better than mine, like sitting with Caleb from CK Studios and Kat coming over and then having like hands-on, like, here's how you do lightning. Here's how I do lightning, this is what I would recommend, and taking notes, studious notes about it and taking pictures and filming it and then approaching it and watching myself get better and better at it as I would go to the next unit, and Shell coming out and, she was asleep in bed and I was working on him at night and doing like her Land Raider and 2 vehicles, all just the purples and then the lightning. And then her coming out and going, oh my God, that looks amazing. I was like, okay, good. That's the reaction that should get. Like, I hope it wasn't just me. So for me, like I had a ton of hobby progress this year. And I think I said before, like our buddy that passed, Doug, at one point had made some snarky comment to me about, well, you don't paint armies. And I'm like, dude, I have painted armies, and yes, I have commissioned a couple of armies as well, but I can paint an army. And now I have painted 2 armies, which adds to the number of armies that I have painted over time. And some I've sold off and some I still have. And everyone progresses a little bit more. Yeah. But for me, like, I got a ton accomplished in a short period of time. Like I talked about on the show, all of a sudden I'm like, well, let me talk about what I did. I painted, 12, units. It's like, oh my God, so it was cool to see and very motivational for me. And unfortunately I kind of hit a dead stop. Like I was rolling right into my sisters. Yeah. And then like
it wasn't sustainable.
I had a setback on a squad of sisters I was doing. I just couldn't get this white working quite right. And it just kind of stopped me.
And then Space Marine 2 came out.
And then Space Marine 2 came out. But I was looking at those sisters recently and I'm like, I think I'm just going to leave the white as is and go, and just keep moving forward and I'll get better with the other ones. So
there's no shame in good enough.
Sometimes, but the sisters for me were meant to be my army of like, I'm compiling everything that I've learned so far. And, to hit this thing, it kind of broke me a little bit, but I'll get back on that.
Well, I mean, you hit that wall with your Black Legion before too, true. Right? So
that was a different, it's
different wall, but similar scenario.
I just got to bust through like the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Something. Oh yeah. Something that held you back, but then like once you overcome that and just go for it and I keep looking.
I keep looking at like the sister stuff I've done already, and I've got like all the base coats on most of the vehicles, and so I'm like, it's really just not much more of a step to get those done at this point. Come on, But then I'm like, maybe I'll just paint Cthulhu instead.
Progress begets progress.
Progress. I'm trying. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to kind of jumpstart that engine so that I get back into, okay, now we're going to knock these out.
Right.
So,
yep.
Get that momentum going.
Yeah. All right.
So on that note, what's your favorite model that you have painted this year? And I'll say right now, it's my Sisters of Battle Rhino.
Yeah.
Right. This was a model that I was looking at, and there's so much detail on these Sisters vehicles. I dread doing The Exorcist. Like, I'm looking at that. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I've seen people. I'm so glad the points changed and I don't have 2 of those in my list now because
You don't want to pay 2.
I don't want to assemble another one, let alone paint one. I mean, they are the most complicated thing I've ever assembled for 40K. And it just when you think you're like, okay, this should be, oh wait, there's 5 more pages. Okay. You know? But that Sisters of Battle Rhino encompassed kind of everything I had learned from Cat and Caleb's CK Studios airbrush classes. Like, for some reason, the where you would do the highlights, I was reversing in my head.
Yeah.
And it was finally like I took a picture that I had found of somebody who had done it the way Caleb teaches.
For like volumetric vehicle panel lighting. Yeah,
yes. And I had the photos like up in front of me as I was airbrushing, and I'm like, I see what I've been doing wrong. And from that point forward, like, it kind of let forward, and I was looking forward to doing the fleur de lis on the Rhino top, and I'm really excited about doing this white and how this will look. And it's just, there's such stark contrast on those models, and it kind of, as I said at the beginning, it encompassed everything I had learned to this point, and I'm very happy with the way the model looks. And if my whole army were to look like that, it's going to look great on the table. The only regret I have is not weathering this point. And
it's not too late.
It is. Yeah. It's too freaking late. Not touching this master work of art.
A little bit. Just a little bit sponging on there.
You shut your face. So for me, I'm very happy with it. Thanks. How that came out. I'm very excited to get the rest of that army in play, and we'll see how it goes. Even though I know that, like, on the Reddit subforum for Sisters, they're complaining about, oh, our Miracle Dice got nerfed and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I'm still going to enjoy playing it. So, okay. Josh, what about you?
Yeah, I didn't do any kind of like single centerpiece model this year, so there wasn't one that just really stood out. Mm-hmm. But for me, the thing that came most to mind was the Eldar Wraith Lord, and that 2-part thing. One, because the base pose of that model is very static, like he's got straight legs, he's just kind of standing there.
Still one of my favorite models.
It's still a great model, but I don't love the stock pose, so I cut it up a bit. I used some green stuff, like just added a lot more dynamics to the pose. But then the actual painting of that had a really, really fun time. Like the amount of kind of depth and fading and gradation of the oranges that I got, and his head and kind of the like loincloth on there. Very proud of how those turned out. Decals are seamless, looks painted on. It's beautiful. The bone is just a really, really nice kind of good tonality. Highlights to shadows on that. The big thing on that model has about 40 nodes on it that can be painted as gemstones or not, and I opted to do that as gemstones. So I painted about 40 gems on the Wraith Lord on the back of that, and it really, really helped me up kind of that gemstone game, which there's going to be a ton of gemstones in that army. So getting a really good so I started with all the basing for the combat patrol, because I also have gemstones on my bases. So I was like, okay, I can like practice on these 20 gemstones on the bases before I go to actually do it on the models. But so then I had already, gotten some of the ugly ones in, like figured how I wanted to do it technique wise, and like how I can do it pretty quickly and just do a tiny bit of cleanup as needed. But yeah, really, really happy with how it turned out overall. And that was kind of probably the model that I'd be single most proud of.
Nice.
And then the really nice kind of subtle power sword effect, with just a really clean edge highlight on there, and the kind of the channel, the Chris of the blade, I think it is. Very, very happy with how it turned out overall.
Looks fantastic.
Yeah, thanks.
That army is going to be so cool.
It's gonna be pretty.
And you don't see them in that color anywhere else.
Oh yeah, like, only the one other army that Colin had painted and sold off. That who knows where
who knows where that is.
Yeah.
All right, Campbell.
My favorite model I painted is Iridan the Witness. They are the Stormcast. They're riding a big griffin. They've got this giant axe with like a burning brazier on it, and then another burning one on their back. I'm just gonna drop that right here.
Yeah.
Boop. where I got some pictures of mine. And this was the second thing of mine that got into Warcom this year, and is absolutely my favorite thing I've painted, because
Oh yeah, this guy's so cool.
I got to do so many textures on this because I've got the this kind of the bronze patina weathered metal of them. I've got the red that kind of stands out. I've got red cloth. I've got flames. I've got feathers.
Dude, what a great model to even begin with. Right?
Yeah, this model would be my favorite. Is my favorite non-Dark Angel model I think that came out this year, and he still has a Dark Angel-y hood.
That's a griffin he's riding, right?
That's a beefy griffin.
Yeah, but
it's got presence.
Its pose is so awesome.
Yeah. I like the hood, the Executioner's hood on it.
Look at the and Josh, look at the gems on the
Yeah.
When you mentioned the gemstones,
fantastic gems.
I'm also a man of culture. But yeah, this model was so, parts of it are kind of hard to get to just because the front of its forearms is hard to get around, a brush around. But this model was so zen-like, just highlighting all these feathers. I think each feather was a 3 or 4 stage highlight or something like that.
Wow.
So they just all took forever, but I got to go hard as hell in the basing. I got to use a bunch of gravestones I had lying around, all these gamers grass tufts, which are these beautiful fields of flowers. So I got to make it look really lush, and I wanted it to look lush. I didn't want it to just be a brown base that matches the model. And yeah, this model, I thrilled with how I did just as a painter, and how I just kind of got this very naturalistic, this mix of naturalistic and fantastic sort of elements going.
Do you play this army?
I do play Stormcast. I actually played in an AOS GT this year, a Hammerfall GT. I went 3. No, I went 4 and 1 actually. No, I went 3 and 2. I had a very good time though. I do play Stormcast because they're fantasy space marines. Yeah. So I understand how they play.
I think they're cool. It's funny. Cool. It's funny. The first time I saw Stormcast, I was like, meh, okay, on an individual basis, not that good. And then I went to Warhammer World, and they had a display of the whole a whole army of them in the display, and I was like, oh, as an army, they look really cool. You have the dragon riders, and you have the this looks really cool.
That's the thing. When I first saw them, I'm like, what is this giant golden tubby baby man? I don't like this guy at all. And then again, Warhammer World, saw the display. I'm like, okay, I get it.
But he's got friends.
But the new ones are just
the new ones with Thunderstrike armor. I'm like, okay, they've got high fantasy hoplites. They've got Griffin cavalry.
Why do the relictors look better than chaplains?
Why do the AOS chaplains go harder than 40k chaplains?
Yep.
And this model is one of those. It's sort of
really nicely done, man.
I loved this model. I love painting this model. I felt so good doing this because I don't like doing centerpiece monsters very much. I really like painting just regular infantry.
Yeah.
So
regular
finding
dudes.
one that resonated with me is rare.
Am I remembering from Badcast 2 that you are a attached to base before painter?
Yes.
And that's true in this case also?
Yes.
That's all the more impressive. Yeah. This is tough. There's no way I would have done that. That's
awesome. Also why it was very hard to get behind. Four legs. But yeah.
Well done.
Well done, man. All right. I think that's it. I think that's a good review. We're going to take a short break. We're going to come back, give you some final thoughts on the year that was, and we'll be right back. All right, we're back to close out the show. First off, thanks, Campbell, for sharing, and Josh for sharing your thoughts and everything. And Campbell, I know 40k Badcast is probably coming back sooner than you originally anticipated, but you're always welcome here. You and Dan are always welcome to come join us. I don't want to overburden you with recording stuff. You're a busy guy,
podcasting and video,
but you're always welcome, man.
Welcome to the club.
Appreciate it. And yeah, if I don't talk into a microphone once every 2 weeks, I'll die. So I'll be on here again, I'm sure.
Good. Let's make sure that doesn't happen. I don't know when you guys are planning to start again, but
our first episode came out New Year's Day at 12 a.m. So we are back. We're not going to be back hard yet, I don't think, but we're going to be able to get some episodes out with some sort of cadence.
So I'm still going to steal some of your time.
Nice.
Oh, for sure.
Good. Okay, good. Because we've very much enjoyed having you on here while you have taken a break from Badcast. While Dan's taking a break early.
Yeah.
That being said, so going into 2025, we still have the Hobby Progress Challenge going. It's going very strong. I haven't announced the prizes yet. I will announce them, I hope, next episode. I've been in talks with various retailers and such for the prizes, and people are all, I'm in. Just send me a list of what it is you want to do. So, I just got to get off my butt and do that. But it is coming. We'll announce that. But there's still like 5 or 6 months to go, and people are crushing it. Like,
yeah.
Even if you only crushed it one month, you got entries, dude. So, or dudes and dudettes, I should say. So
yeah, remember every success is an entry, and it's a random prize drawing.
It has a chance that you could win. So that's amazing. Shell has been very much tracking all of this for us and really enjoys it, and really, like, she'll call me or look at this guy's thing, or blah blah, and we're nothing if not flexible. I know somebody reached out and said, like, I don't have like a night size thing in my army, I'm not going to buy one. Is it okay if I do terrain for this thing? And I was like, yeah, I think that's fine. And she said, well, he's talking about doing like a whole table of terrain. I go, yeah, absolutely. Like, just do it. It's fine. We'll give you credit for it. I mean,
it's the war on gray plastic.
We're not trying to put anybody's pocketbook in jeopardy here. It's all about getting your backlog out of the way. So,
yep.
I have not succeeded in one of the painting challenges in many months at this point, but I'll get there.
You can't win.
I'm maxing points, and I can't win.
Shell says, but you're supposed to be inspiring the people to do it. Yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do.
That's right. Paint 2 armies and come talk to me. Some of you have. So whatever. Okay. But I want to talk about like where we're going in 2025. And for me, like, it's got to be my Sisters of Battle. They're going to hit the table this year.
Yeah.
I'm going to get moving on them. It's January 3rd at the moment. I got time. I'm not going to bring them to Adepticon. That was never my plan. I don't think it was my plan. I'm bringing my Black Legion to Adepticon, so that'll be a lot of fun.
We'll see.
I may bring Shell Eldar. She's got the Sheldar and she's not playing them. And I'm like, I like Eldar. Maybe I'll play those. So no, I think I plan on bringing my Black Legion and, just playing some games. I'm running the 40k Flex at Adepticon, which is super casual play.
Yeah. Very excited for that.
Yeah. You can bring units that have been sunsetted, or what do they call them? Legends units, bring a 2,000 point list, super casual, 2 games a day, starts at 9 a.m., ends at noon. Next one starts at 1 p.m., ends at 4. So you can come or not come. I mean, even if you bail out on one, we got a ringer that'll play. That's fine. It may even be me.
Yeah.
We got, and every game you play, you get an entry in a drawing. So it's not even about winning or losing. It's all about just playing and having fun and being social. And we'll figure out, we get some medals and stuff. We'll figure out what we give those out for. It's probably going to be sportsmanship based and, just having fun and being the life of the party. So it's really about bringing the spirit of Warhammer in the garage and old time just kind of to the table and just having fun. And if you want to play a real tough list, like, we'll try to pair you up with somebody who wants to play a real tough list. And if you want to just play something casual, I'll put in something casual, so either way it'll work out. And it'll be a great time. That runs for 4 days, but I'm only running it for 2 days, which running it is really just kind of sitting around socializing.
Sitting around talking 40K.
That's the whole point, right? So yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Maybe I don't know. Anyway, so look for that. But for me this year, it's all about getting my sisters done. And I have so many of them. I think that's going to be really my focus this year.
Yeah, you have a lot.
I way overbought. Like I had always said, if they come out with these in plastic, I'm going hard.
So
I went too hard.
Is your plan of painting everything you have, or you want to paint so you have one of everything?
I want a 2,000 point force. That's my guaranteed thing. And then I'll like my Black Legion, I'll start adding to it, and so I can mix things up here and there.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Campbell? You said something I said about
you put your money where your mouth is.
I sure did.
In a very literal sense.
Yeah.
I can't eat.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give my kidney juice, Campbell. What about you, Campbell? What are you going to focus on this year?
Well, I'm going to a buttload of events because I'm not in classes for half the year.
Yay.
So I'm going to be at Adepticon and Squig City in Pendleton and Storm of Silence in Spokane and the Tacoma Open and Nova. And I'm doing a get together with some pals in somewhere in Washington for a Necromunda weekend. That's going to be a ton of fun too. We're renting out an Airbnb and just hanging,
doing
just
it
playing
right.
a bunch of Necromunda for a couple days. And again, that's like
You got your invite, right, Josh? I know I got mine.
I totally got it. Yep.
I'll see if Peter and Ken have room for 2 more.
It's
But
I don't know when you're doing it, but I got a busy year.
Definitely depends on the when, but but I would go if possible.
I don't
If it worked
remember
out.
when either, so I gotta check that too.
All right, let me know.
I know there's no conflicts with anything else. Anyway,
Is there a
I'm doing
Russian
lot-
nightclub nearby?
Maybe- we'll see what Olympia's population can support. But yeah, so I'm doing all these events and I'm traveling a bunch on top of that. So I understand I'm not going to be painting quite as much as I might otherwise, but I do want to get my guard to a playable level.
Nice.
It doesn't mean paint every dang thing, but it does mean get 2,000 points of new guard painted. And I'm at 475, and this tank will take me to like 700. So
Plus
we'll see
65 for that walker.
yeah.
55 if you take the top off.
Yeah.
Hey, that's before enhancements. We could bring it all the way up to 800 if we're really lucky. But we'll see what the new codex looks like. But yeah, my plan is to get my guard playable and to play something that isn't my Black Templars. Because if you couldn't tell when I was talking about playing Wrathful Procession, I'm a little sick of running basically the same thing.
I
the
can
entire
understand
edition.
Yeah.
And like we talked about fixed lists before, that was a very good conversation. That there's a lot of good merit there. But variety is still the spice of life. So I'd like to try something different. So
Nice.
I'm probably going to be running my Ultramarines for a little while until I get my my guard up and running. But we'll see what happens.
You raise an interesting point, which is like you're going to a lot of events. I didn't even think about, I just thought about hobby wise, but like I want to play more 40K. I want to play it easily as much as I've played this year. Cause like, I feel like I'm playing the right amount for me this year. I go to a couple events where I play a bunch of games and then I play games, probably 2 to 3 games a month, which is a good amount
cadence.
for me.
It's a good cadence. Yeah. I aim for 52 games a year.
Oh, that's interesting.
I got that exactly.
Nice.
That's an wow.
It's a game a week. Yeah. It's a good
I would have
week.
thought you would have been more than that, to be honest.
Well, again, for 6 months, I wasn't getting my weekly games
That's
in,
true.
more or less. So, and I didn't get to go to Adepticon because, like, last year at Adepticon, I played, 12 games across 4 systems. My brain was melted.
Oh, I'll
and I
bet.
did awful in most of them. But
I can't do it. I
I was glad I did it. I was glad I did it once. I feel like if you go to Adepticon, and if I'm preaching too much, I apologize. But if I feel like you go to Adepticon and you just stay in the 40K room and just play 40K, you're missing out. You should at least hopefully find the time to look at the other stuff. Maybe try a demo of something because Adepticon is everything.
It's super good for demos.
Yeah.
Nova is like, here's 40K and some other stuff. But Adepticon is, here's everything.
Yeah.
Take what you like.
Yeah, that's true. Marvel Crisis Protocol had like a huge representation there the year before last. Like they're filming and broadcasting those games live, so I mean, I've only ever seen that done with 40K and Age of Sigmar.
Yeah,
before.
so there's clearly some audience out there for this stuff.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
What about you, Josh?
Yeah. Hobby wise, I've got kind of 3 main goals, and this is really like clearing out the backlog for me. Like Eldar is a big one, and I'm hoping to get Eldar fast. Like I am hoping to have 2,000 points ready for Adepticon. And our big game that we've been talking about is a 3,000 point game, and that's March. So if I can pull that off, I'll be very happy. Otherwise, I might need a supplement with some Sheldar elements. But my goal is, if possible, by kind of mid-March, is to have 3,000 points done. The Eldar do paint fairly quickly, even with the scheme that I've got. So hopefully I can pull that off. Second thing, hobby wise, is I have a ton of terrain that I need to paint. I have like a fully painted table and then some easily of 40K terrain, but I probably have 2 tables worth of unpainted terrain that I really want to get. And that's including the, boarding action, terrain set, a bunch of 3D printed stuff, a bunch of official GW kits. Like I would love to be able to have, 3 games of 40K at my house pretty comfortably. Yeah. Not that I host game days as frequently because your house is here and it's just a better spot for it. Yeah. But the ability to do that for, once or twice a year, get together and do that. I also have a ton of Necromunda terrain. I have a full amount of stuff to build a proper 3x3 underhive table. And then I have all my Ashway waste terrain that I really need to bring, because the next campaign that happens for us will be ash waste. Now that we got enough vehicles out there, that's going to happen.
Our next campaign, our other one kind of died on the vine.
Oh, it's coming back. We'll finish it.
We're not done.
We're
I
actually.
still got my arm.
I was actually talking with Matt yesterday about throwing a Necromunda weekender at his spot or at Sky Shop and just finish the rest of the campaign in a day. Like it's so fun. That's a good one.
It's a great way to play Necromunda.
Yeah, it is. And then the third one, I'm not even remembering because I don't know what it is. I guess it is events. Like, so I am hoping to Adepticon's definitely happening. War on the Shore is obviously happening in the next week or so. Tacoma was it was fun. I would definitely go back to Tacoma and do things maybe a little bit different. I wouldn't play as many games because 10 in
stay in a different place
3 days. Yeah, definitely I would stay at the hotel that's there, which is wasn't advertised when I was looking that there is a hotel right there. It's like, what? How did I miss that?
This place above the nightclub, man. Like it was a weird. It was like weirdly laid
like an
out.
MC Escher house.
Yeah, it was weirdly laid out, and then it was just like that first
over
night,
a nightclub.
That first night, I was like, "Oh my god,
like
it's gonna be rough."
Or anything.
I put noise canceling headphones on and went to sleep. Like, thank God I had those.
Same.
I will say the hotel for Tacoma Open is prohibitively expensive. It was $2,000.
Holy smokes!
The first time I went, it was a thing where afterwards Dan messages me and just goes, "Campbell, you have to stay at a cheaper freaking hotel if you want to do this again."
Yeah, that's ridiculous. No, we're not staying at the hotel.
See how much the Badcast and Goonhammer can cover my stay. It's either that or I drive my van up there and I find a very comfy looking parking lot.
Maybe a group of us find a Airbnb that
get a real house close by.
Yeah,
apartment above a club.
I'll look around. I would like to go to that again. I mean, I would approach that narrative in a totally different
same
mindset. But I mean, the terrain and everything was beautiful. And like the event they threw was good. I just came in with the wrong approach.
It's also, the Tacoma Open is like most GW events I've gone to is run like clockwork. It is like snappy. It is good. It is tight. It might not be as doesn't have the same like personality of like a Nova or an Adepticon, but it is. If you just want a well-run event, GW events.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Like that.
Agreed. All right. Well, man, that's it. So, as usual, leave us reviews on iTunes. Check out the 40k Badcast.
We're back.
Yeah, you'll be back. I'm excited. I like listening to it.
Yeah.
You're actually the only other 40k podcast I listen to. And no offense to others.
Likewise.
But it's just because I don't want like my content influenced by like what others are doing. Like we like to come up with our own kind of, here's what we're doing, but you guys are personal friends. That's not true. I listen to Life After Cover Save still too, because
they came back,
but they meander so much. You can't even call them a 40k cast.
I wouldn't know what that's like.
Yeah. Dude, you guys are so on point for 40k compared to them.
That was actually one of our points when you started. We're like, okay, Life After the Cover Save does the funny Warhammer podcast. Let's do a funny Warhammer podcast that's on topic.
That actually has
that actually was like part of our initial start.
And I love those guys. Like we're all good friends.
No shade to them at all. They do what they do and they're wonderful.
They'll be at Adepticon this year too.
That's awesome. Looking forward to seeing them again.
I haven't seen
them since
a huge crew.
We went to England.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's right. We've got a Patreon. You can check that out. We're offering up extra videos. We haven't been able to get back to our role-playing live play that we wanted to do yet. It doesn't look like it's in the cards anytime soon, but we're going to continue to produce content there in lieu of that until we can get that group back together. We got a Facebook group that's very popular and doing very well. We will post all of the pictures for the Elite Choice and more in a post there where you can find it. Yeah.
Don't forget about t-shirts. If you're going to Adepticon and want a t-shirt, we'll bring it to you.
Thank you very much.
Get t-shirt orders in there, and
and check out Goonhammer. We're part of the Goonhammer Media Network.
That's right.
Check that out. So
check out Goonhammer on YouTube if you want to see how your Grotmist detachment was broken down. I did a video on that, and I'll be back to it making new stuff in the coming weeks. So keep an eye on the Goonhammer YouTube channel.
All right. Okay, well, until next time, this is Carl.
This is Josh.
And this is Campbell.
We're coming to you from the Astronomicon, where it's been a good year. It's going to be an even better year.
Nice. And we have yet another year to chip away at the backlog.
And it's time to start saving for that Tacoma hotel room.
I noticed you changed. All right. Well, we'll talk to you next time.
This episode of The Independent Characters is protected by the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find information on the front page at theindependentcharacters.com.